Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Free Bridge Podcast. I'm your host, Brian, and we're talking stuff with the Felicos. On this particular podcast, we're going to talk about movies. Talk about the state of movies today and how movies were, I guess, received back then.
My man, Pots and Pans.
So, I'm going to go right ahead and say that the movies that are coming out today just are rehash or reboots or sequels, remakes. It's just fucking recycling the same bullshit.
Or
over and over.
superhero movies.
Or superhero movies, right?
For the most part, there's a couple of original ideas, like Game Night.
Yeah, game night. Yeah, but like it's just annoying. And I remember how going into theaters and just watching movies back when I was a kid, as opposed to, and then when I was a teenager, like I used to go to movies and buy one ticket to the movie I wanted them to get the money for, and then I just start sneaking into like 4 other theaters and watch movies.
I feel
Because-
like we used to go to movies 2-3 times a month.
yeah.
Technology
that
and
was
times
the
have
thing to
changed things,
do.
though. Yeah.
You'd go to the mall, hang out with your friends, and go see a movie.
Yeah. But nowadays, people go to movies once a month, maybe.
No, I
If
don't.
that,
Yeah.
I used to take my girlfriend, who's now my wife, Lauren. We used to go to a movie like once every couple of days.
Yeah.
Dude, I go maybe 2-3 times a year. And that's like, oh, it's a busy year.
Yeah.
2 movies that are good? Oh.
It's like whatever Marvel's coming out with and whatever Pixar's coming out with, that's the movie I'm going to go watch.
I think the thing that attracts me now to the movie theaters most is a good horror film.
Yeah, good
Just 'cause
horror
there's-
movies draw you in.
Yeah.
There's so few of them.
Because you either have original ideas like Conjuring,
Insidious?
Insidious,
Oh, man.
or you have either
Reboots.
remakes or reboots like Halloween,
It.
Suspiria's coming out. I'm looking forward to. You never gave that original movie a chance. You would love
Me?
that movie
No,
too.
I didn't.
You would
I
love
gave it
now.
5 minutes and I was like, oh, no.
I don't even think we got through 5 minutes. I think it was like the.
Not for me.
it was-
I think about it like this. Like
I'll have to.
you think about the movies growing up. There was a lot of movies growing up that were way before my time that I continue. I put into my repertoire of movies that I go to and like, oh, those are the movies that were great.
Yeah.
I don't fucking these movies right now, like kids today, that I don't see them going like, oh, these are the best.
Yeah.
fucking
I know we're going to dive into the 70s soon, but anytime, like the old time movie theaters, sometimes, especially horror films, in October, they'll run old movies like one every week of October.
right. Like The Shining,
And
Halloween.
I went to go see The Shining in Charlotte. Was it 2014?
Was it like a Lafayette Theater in Suffern, like that type of place?
It was similar to that.
Yeah.
What is the
And-
Lafayette Theater in Suffern? I don't know
Lafayette
what that is.
Theater in Suffern.
It's an old-time
It's an
theater.
old-time theater from like the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Mhm.
It's it almost looks like when I say a theater, like if you went to a Broadway play.
Yes, that's
Like the
exactly
Alamo
what I was going
Draft
to
House.
say.
Even more.
Even
so
like
than
an
that.
Really?
orchestra.
Because the
You
Alamo
go see an
Draft
orchestra.
House is made that way. This is original, and you could just smell it.
So it's like one of those old school movies or movie theaters where you're like, this is like
Right.
old world.
Now,
Yeah.
the Lafayette Theater, I remember when I was in college, I was taking a film course.
Mhm.
And for extra credit, if you used to go there early on a Saturday morning, they always play old-time classics on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. till like 11. And I would go every week, and like I enjoyed it, and I was getting extra credit for class. It was great. I went into like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, like movies like that.
Yeah.
That were just old classics. And I had to write like a one-page report, and I'm like, okay, I could do that.
You know, one of the things like back then, movies that were like from like the 70s, maybe even some 80s movies or 60s, like you would deconstruct those movies in like English class, like The Graduate. Like,
Yeah.
oh, let's talk about The Graduate and da da da. Did you notice this and the way they use music here? But like, pick one movie right now in the past couple of years where you can go, oh, that's one right there. Like, there's none.
Birdman?
Maybe Birdman.
Birdman's probably the closest.
Maybe Birdman, But, like, you got a plethora. Like, you want me to read off some from
Yeah,
the 70s
read 'em
right
off.
now? Like, The Godfathers.
Wait, you're starting in the 70s?
The
So
set.
we're
this,
going to ignore
this,
the 50s and 60s?
I don't fucking... Here, now,
The Graduate would be one that
Vertigo?
we maybe
Yeah.
think of.
Vertigo, yeah.
Vertigo, Rear Window,
1958, Rear Window.
Uh-huh.
Psycho.
Psycho, 1960.
Psychos, yeah. But for me, like, movies,
So common theme. Alfred Hitchcock was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
and he
was
says
a-
it too.
He was about 20 years ahead of his
He
time.
says like, "Oh, the people nowadays
The Birds,
They
I
hated
wasn't a
him
big
though,
fan of, though.
dude. They
He was
hated
great.
him.
He was a great marketer, though.
They said his movies sucked, but
Well,
the audience loved him.
The best marketing gimmick he ever did was Psycho.
Just
It's
the
probably still the
suspense.
best marketing gimmick of all time as far as a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But, The Thing from Another World, 1953,
Yeah,
The Wizard of Oz.
1939.
That was a big one.
I'm gonna go into like the 70s because
Yeah,
these
let's
are-
go. Let's just dive into the 70s.
because I'm talking about like movie like I don't even know like how to describe it.
Most people our age wouldn't even know the 50s and 60s
Yeah.
as far as films are concerned.
Like they're not gonna watch those movies out of like, oh, I can't wait to see it. Like I'm gonna enjoy. They're watching it because they're being forced to by school.
Yeah.
Or somebody in their family's like, you have to watch this fucking movie, right?
Yeah, me.
Yeah, the 50s and 60s are a lot more dated than 70s.
Like those are for like movie buffs, and I'm talking people who like kind of want to just
Me.
see something they enjoy.
Me.
Yeah, and I'm talking the mainstream isn't gonna fucking watch those movies.
I mean,
No, I'm not
Citizen
mainstream.
Kane was one of the greatest
I fucking
films
hate that
I've
I
ever
don't like
seen.
Citizen Kane.
Oh my gosh, you're a moron.
Yeah, that's how they act. They're very like
Chauvinistic.
yeah, or they're fucking like snobby about it. Like fucking get out of here with that shit. And that's kind of annoying.
Let's dive right into the 70s right now.
So the
Let's
Godfather
do
movies in the 70s, right? Godfather 1, 2,
And 2, yeah.
not, maybe not 3.
Enough of you getting views.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Put your hands in the air, Chief.
Apocalypse Now, Chinatown, Clockwork
do.
Orange. Star
Clockwork
Wars.
Orange, man.
Blockbusters started in the 70s. Jaws.
Yeah, there you go.
Was Kubrick did a Clockwork Orange, right?
Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
That's so sadistic.
Now,
That
now,
movie.
Yeah.
yeah. Blockbusters started in the 70s with like Jaws and Star Wars.
Halloween.
Halloween.
That
Well,
wasn't a blockbuster. That was
Yeah.
a low budget
Oh,
film.
man. That was an independent film.
Yeah.
I'm talking about. I said Star Wars though.
The music.
No, I'm talking
yeah,
about
Star
Halloween.
Wars.
Oh yeah,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Toby Hooper.
Taxi Driver. I mean, like,
But Clockwork Orange kind of. It seems like Heath Ledger grabbed a little bit from.
Well, he did. He in that documentary when he became the Joker.
Oh,
role,
his
he used to-
journal,
yeah,
right?
But he used to watch that movie in his trailer, and he came out, and it's funny because I remember watching a documentary, and Michael Caine said, "You reminded me of Alex from A Clockwork Orange." And he goes, "Yeah, I was just watching that about an hour ago," and he's like, "Ooh, creepy."
Yeah.
and then when I go back, like, I mean, you got other movies like Rocky Balboa or Rocky.
Yeah.
Rocky in the 76.
Third Encounters of the Close Kind.
Close Encounters.
I said Third Encounters, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking Third Rock from the Sun.
You know, Third Encounters of a Close
It was
Kind.
not the first. It was the second and third.
The Exorcist.
Yeah, The
You
Exorcist.
know.
That movie's
Dude.
boring as hell.
One of the creepiest parts of that movie is when they're in the kitchen and then that.
The light flickers. Yeah,
Yeah, the
well,
vampire or whatever the hell
Well, it's
it
not
is.
a vampire. It's the demon that's possessing her. So they
He's
do
a
that,
scary demon.
They do that throughout the movie. That was one of the first times
Yeah.
that someone ever did that in a movie, where basically lights and playing with like effects as far as like fooling the mind.
Yeah. Your brother's close to DC. Have you been to that house or passed by it?
No.
In Georgetown?
No, I have not.
Oh, dude.
I
We
heard
gotta
it's
go.
Fucking scary.
It's not
as
near
hell,
the
man.
stairs, but we have to go one day.
I want to go to the stairs. The house is crap.
I think a decade.
Dude, the house is kind of creepy seeing it in
Is
real
it?
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
I mean, there was a pastor out there.
I would
As a father.
I would say a decade-defining movie for the 70s, Saturday Night Fever.
It gives the 70s a bad name, no doubt.
I mean, that's how they were. I mean,
I mean, Disco
Well, that's not
died.
necessarily true, because I could say, you ever seen the movie Detroit Rock City? The cool people from the 70s like that. Or Dazed and Confused.
oh,
that-
that movie's amazing.
that's
Be a lot
the 70s.
cooler
But that's not a
if you
70s
did.
movie.
Yes, it is. No, but that's taking place in the 70s.
It's taking place in the 70s, but
I mean,
that was made in
yeah, the
1990.
movie was in the
Yeah,
70s.
but those people were part of the 70s, is my point.
But what I'm saying, so like for the 90s, I think a decade-defining 90s movie would be like, I would think between two: Wayne's World
I mean, Dumb and
And
Dumber,
Clueless?
obviously.
and Clueless.
Yeah, a lot of dumb people. I agree.
But in now that's the thing is those movies reflect the decade and they were
In
made
which they're in.
yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but you could say that that's what people want you to think that decade was, because again, Saturday Night Fever shows a very specific type of people for the 70s. Not everyone fell into that in the 70s.
Not everyone did, but it was
That's pop culture.
It was a fad during the
No,
70s.
there's no
Yeah,
doubt.
yeah.
But the other fad were the people that were like, we have nothing to do with that.
No, I understand.
were like
I understand
lockers.
what you're saying. The one thing that makes so the disco is specific to the 70s. It didn't happen in the 60s, and it really didn't make it to the 80s. So
No.
that is decade specific to the 70s,
I would agree with that.
And that,
which I think is what you're getting
yeah,
at, right?
that defines the decade right there.
I mean, the Bee Gees are rocking.
like for example,
Oh.
if you were to see
This one's for you, Andy.
like, if you see a movie that's like talking about the 90s made today,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't be saying things like in Clueless, like as if, like they wouldn't use
Well, yeah, like
and
it's
it
in
was more-
retrospect.
yeah,
It's in retrospect. You have a different perspective. You have the 2000s in between it too. So
Yeah.
you're not really. It's not decade specific as
Yeah.
far as the references are actually happening while you're
I
filming.
think it depends on your
take.
your perspective, your take too, because there's a lot of people that say that the grunge defined the '90s, and that's completely
well, no,
different.
they could say the grunge or they could say the hip hop. Hip hop was just as popular as grunge.
okay, that's a different perspective. That's
Yeah.
my point.
Yeah.
But there's
Public
depending
Enemy.
on your perspective
Yeah.
is going to be what that decade.
Like, for
meant to
example,
you.
like the 70s would be like either in the disco or you're going to be doing like psychedelics and smoking weed somewhere and like peace.
But
and-
see, that's what I
yeah.
was going to say. It's
Yeah.
like, but back then in the '70s,
Rock.
we were much more careful. We
Mm.
weren't as progressive. So obviously, disco was going to be more acceptable to put on a big screen than the psychedelics aspect of it, as far as more
s-
pop culture and
The
mainstream.
psychedelics was, I would say, the
More
latter,
frowned upon?
the latter end of the 60s,
60s.
maybe early 70s.
Yeah.
Kind of where you had the
That's my-
Doors, Jimi Hendrix
So,
experience.
so that's why I'm
That was
saying,
more of the experimental
yeah.
era.
Well, that was during Vietnam
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying I think the 70s,
Woodstock is
what
the one
really defines the 70s is more closely showed in, Saturday Night Fever. I guess that's what I was
That
trying
was
to say.
decade specific,
Yeah.
which is 100%. Disco was
Yeah,
decade
that
specific.
defined the decade. But that was I mean, I'm not going to read all the 70s. There's a shit ton of movies in the 70s. We all know that.
You
And
only
that
have
was
to know
like
about
a
Jaws,
big
That's it.
Jaws and the Godfather.
Halloween,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Exorcist,
horror movies.
obviously.
Horror movies
Texas
are getting their
Chainsaw
legs.
Massacre
Yeah.
gets lost in the fold.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really talked about.
No.
Which it was the first slasher. Was it not slasher film?
Actually, technically, the first slasher film
Was
ever
Psycho,
is
right?
no Black. Well, yeah, Psycho.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Technically, Psycho. Actually, there's people out there that think there's a movie called is it called Tomcat?
Peeping Tom.
No, Peeping Tom.
Peeping
That's
Tom. I know.
Tomcat.
It's funny. I was
Peeping
like,
Tom.
as soon as you said that, I was like, I know where he's going
I know
with
the
this.
word Tom's
Yeah, I
there.
saw that guy in the window looking at us.
Peeping Tom is
His name is Mike.
apparently the first movie, quote unquote, that became a slasher film. But as far as the way we know slasher films are today,
Mm-hmm.
there's some people that say it's Halloween. There's some people that say it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And there's some people that say it's Psycho. So
I
it's
feel like we
somewhere
could
in there.
have our own
Is
like
Texas
a podcast.
Chainsaw Massacre based on a real story?
It is the Ed Gein story, which actually that's how someone came up with the idea of Psycho
So Ed Gein was actually he was inspiration for Psycho
and Texas Chainsaw
and
Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and there was another film that he
He's a great slasher.
yeah
Well, he
He's a
really wasn't a
sick
slasher.
freak.
Dude,
that's
that's-
the sick
yeah.
part.
sick bastard right there.
Did he
Let's
actually
go.
wear skin?
Yeah. He
Yeah.
would he would
Well,
go
you're
and
talking about Silence of
Ugh.
the Lambs.
yeah.
God,
Silence
that's
of the Lambs. That's the other
Yeah.
one. So there was 3 inspirations right there. He's a sick freak.
Oh.
So like that was the 70s. I'm actually gonna move on to like the 80s, right?
80s.
Because it's such a shift in tone.
80s so cliche.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Like
either,
romantic that's
well,
like
it's
the
either-
beginning of romantic comedies, I
Yeah.
feel
Breakfast
Well,
Club.
right?
It's
Yeah.
either cliche or there was people trying to flex like what they were able to go on with special effects, like The Thing.
Yeah.
Took that next step into
In
like
comparison
special
to the
effects.
70s, like
In comparison-
Superman?
Yeah.
You know what? Actually,
I
I'm
love
gonna
Superman.
use this one. Like
Return of the Jedi.
when I go
um,
to from the 70s, you got like the
Empire
almost
Strikes Back.
you almost got like those guys that are like larger than life in the 70s. But when you go to the 80s, you got guys like what's his name? Matthew Broderick. First Bueller's Day
Well,
Off.
those- the
He's
thing
your
is-
leading man.
That's a great film.
yeah.
That's a great movie.
The stars in the 80s are stars to us because we know them from
Yeah,
the
but
Yeah.
they were
But
us.
during that time, they were no ones.
Yeah. Like here's the thing. You got the guys that were like the almost like adult figures
Like,
or
think
like the
about Tom
badasses.
Cruise in Risky Business or the movie
kid.
All the Right Moves. He was a kid. No
Yeah.
one knew who the hell Tom
Yeah, no
Cruise
one
was.
knew who he was.
We know Tom Cruise is this huge movie star.
Practically everybody in the Breakfast Club. You got
Emilio
Michael J.
Estevez.
Michael J.
No one knows who
Fox
he
in
is.
Back to the Future, The
Yeah.
Goonies,
When did we
E.T.
consider him a movie star?
Who?
Probably Top Gun
What?
would be when.
Tom Cruise?
Yeah, when he became.
Yeah, 1985. Even the
Movie
movie
star?
Legend. Like, we both love that movie.
But he wasn't even known at that point.
No, he was. That's
Really?
1985. That's a year before Top Gun. He had already done all the right moves. He already did Risky Business. Risky Business is what put him on the map.
Because the underwear scene.
No, it's true.
No, but I'm saying that
1983.
one scene, right?
Risky Business, man. I love that movie.
That is a good
That's
You know
a
movie.
movie I literally can watch
Good
all
plot.
the time.
Here's a good contrast between like The Exorcist was like serious. It's terrifying. It means business.
It's boring,
Then you
is
got
what it is.
Ghostbusters in the '80s. Like, oh, there's ghosts. Let's try to figure out how to make money off of this. Like,
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
yeah, like, and then you got like, but then there's a sci-fi aspect to
Dude,
it.
Bill Murray,
Bill Murray's fucking.
comic genius.
It was amazing.
Him and Caddyshack.
He defies every decade. He's in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s.
Too. Yeah, he's a
And the thousands. Lost in Translation.
he's a pop culture icon.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
say Bill Murray.
Met him in Sports Authority, where you used to work, Brian.
Yeah.
Before you ever did.
Yeah.
Tall as fuck, that guy. I told you
Dude,
that.
yeah.
Terminator, like that's out there.
Yeah.
Like that's way out
84,
there.
yeah.
You know, they took a lot of.
Is that James Cameron's first big film?
That's like probably his, yeah.
Yeah, it might be.
First big
Yeah.
one?
Like they took like they either went with like cliche
Yeah.
or they went with way
Out
out,
there.
of left
Yeah,
field, dude.
outside the box.
There was nothing in the middle. It's like E.T. Oh, what if a
Wait,
kid becomes friends with an extraterrestrial?
Was RoboCop 80s?
Yeah,
Hey,
of
oh, you
course.
bet your ass it
Well,
was.
that's the thing is,
That's like
That's
80s
cliche.
the Brat Pack movies are all cliche,
Uh-huh.
right? And then everything else seems to be like, what's the most outlandish thing you could think of?
They took the movie Alien, right, which was like
Well, that's
serious
70 that's
tone.
79.
That's what I'm saying. They took it and was
Oh,
serious.
86, they kind of made it funny.
They fucking turned it into like,
Yeah.
imagine if there's a million of them and you have machine and then the Marine. I'm like,
they
of
added
course.
but they added humor to it too.
Exactly.
Bill
Game over,
Paxton.
man. Game over, man.
It's game over.
Dude, the crazy thing is, like, Breakfast Club, that's how I still perceive high school would have been, even when we were in high school.
Yeah.
But that's cliche. That's the thing.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the point. We're trying
The
to.
thing
know,
about
but
cliche is,
I don't think it would relate now.
see, but that's not true because cliche, like if you think about it by definition, it literally means like that's what it is.
Yeah.
We look at it as like, oh, that's so cliche. Yeah, it's cliche because that's what happens. Because even though maybe the
cliche for a
characters will be a
reason.
little bit different, but if you look at the Breakfast Club, it's 4 or 5 people that are completely different
Jocks,
walks of life
nerds.
mixing together.
Pretty
It's like a
girls.
melting pot in high school. Look at high
Yeah.
school now. You have your different subgroups, sub people, the jocks, the emo people, the goths.
I think the only
Popular
difference
people,
now
the
in comparison to when
losers.
we went to school is it's a lot more inviting. Now, you don't stereotype as much, especially in the political.
well, we've become much more politically correct now. Than
yeah,
then.
we're much more accepting now than I would even say 10 years
Well, yeah,
ago.
but we're
It seems like,
we're-
I don't know, I
we're
don't go
on
to
the
high school now,
surface
though.
more accepting, but we could be much more vulgar and much more demeaning now. And
But
I think
it's just not-
technology has changed that
Yeah.
though too.
Yeah,
You know one thing I
you're
want to
just
point
more
out?
hidden.
I
Yeah.
want to point out something that I've actually noticed as a pattern throughout all these decades. Like the 70s movies.
They're all in color.
The 70s movies inspired a new generation of filmmakers, and they actually went out. You can see the inspiration from the old movies littered in these movies.
Francis Ford Coppola.
You see what I
Martin
mean?
Scorsese.
Yeah.
But you see that they're actually trying to tell a new story.
Steven Spielberg.
Now, here's the thing with certain caveats. For example, I'm going to use one where, okay, they made a remake, but they told a completely new story with The Thing.
The thing. Yeah.
Completely
Well,
overhauled
The
it.
thing about this is, and I'll
The
tell
thing
you,
about
no,
this.
well, the
No
thing
pun
about the
intended.
thing is, so the original The Thing from Another World, which was 1951 with James Arness, the story was based off of a short story, Who Goes There, by John C. Campbell. And
Everybody knows that.
because of technology, they could not actually tell the story. So the 1982 The Thing by John Carpenter is actually more true to Who Goes There, which is a shape-shifting alien that replicates whatever it comes into contact with. Now think about 1951.
Flexing our
You-
special effects muscles.
You couldn't do the special effects to replicate that with an alien.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until 1956 when they did Invasion of the Body Snatchers that we started getting into the whole replicant thing.
Yeah.
But that's 5 years later.
I don't want you to get too far ahead, but isn't that what you said about it too? The 1990
Yeah, the
TV version.
Yeah, the miniseries version is nothing like the book. The new story is
More
much
closer
more
to the-
true
yeah.
to the book, and people didn't like it because of these special effects. But the miniseries couldn't do
Yeah.
what the story told because of
I
special
think
effects.
it had a great reception, actually.
Well, no, but there's a lot of people that didn't.
Which
like
one, the new one?
The
special
new one.
effects
The
in
new one. I fucking love that movie.
Well, listen, I knew there's a lot of people like I went with my brother, two of his friends, Matt DeVivo and his girlfriend, my wife, and a childhood friend, Michelle. And my friend Michelle didn't like it, and she's a very nostalgic person.
Mm-hmm.
She's very much about childhood, which I am too. But she didn't like the movie because she liked the original movie, but the original movie would never have been able to pull off what the new story told because of special effects. It's just a fact.
What I was trying to say is that the movies that were made in the 80s, you can see that there's parts or components from the 1970s movies where these filmmakers took a lot of inspiration from. Where I feel like, and it's interesting you said that, because a lot of the movies now, there's no inspiration. They're just trying to use and repackage the nostalgia factor from the old movies to go, hey, look, remember this? Remember how cool that was? There's nothing there. Like these movies, for example, they're taking like for Aliens. They took the movie Alien and they expanded upon it, but made it different by going, look, now it's an action movie, and that's the same director. Now you have psychological thrillers and
Wait,
showing.
who was that? Ridley Scott, right?
Yeah, no, Brian.
it Ridley
you're
Scott?
talking-
Oh, no, you're right, you're right. James Cameron.
Ridley Scott was the original. James Cameron was the second.
Yeah.
That's why it became an action crap movie
Yeah.
instead of a good movie.
No, that movie's awesome too.
James Cameron, I just want to let you know, you're the most overrated director in my book ever.
You're such a hack.
You're a hack, has been, never was.
So
My
Scott
phone's
did,
ringing. It's him.
Ridley Scott did Gladiator too, right?
Ridley Scott's a genius. He did
Legend.
also did Legend. Yeah. Guy
Ridley
knows
Scott
what he's
also
doing.
did Robin Hood, and that movie sucked my ass.
Is Tim
Excuse me?
Russell Crowe?
That movie-
Robin Hood Men in Tights? How dare
Listen,
you?
That movie's.
No, I thought he was talking
That's-
about with Kevin Costner.
No.
That's a national. That's a
With Russell
national
Crowe?
treasure.
Well, you got to understand, it's just like any other director. You have that success with one actor, and then all of a sudden you're like, I could do this every time. He's like, I did Gladiator. Let's do Robin Hood. Yeah, that didn't work out.
No.
But they even took like Apocalypse Now in the 70s, but they had their own versions of like Vietnam movies with like The Platoon, and then they also did Full Metal Jacket.
Well, that was Oliver.
Different takes, dude.
That was
Oliver
Oliver
Pla-
Stone.
Yeah.
Oliver-
No, what I'm saying is you see how these directors.
Oliver Stone's just like, oh, I'm anti-American, but I live in America. I get it.
He did The Doors though too, right?
Yeah, he did. But you could see that like there's an inspiration between the 70s and 80s. Now, the 70s did inspire the movies of the 80s, and now if you look at the 80s in comparison to the 90s, one could say probably the 70s and the 80s inspired the movies for the 90s. But when you go to like,
Well, the 70s, I think, inspired the 90s. I would argue the 80s
More so than the
inspired
80s?
2000s.
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of weird movies.
feel like
there's
the
a lot of
okay.
interesting movies.
There's a lot of weird movies in the 2000s, Brian.
Yeah.
I would think the beginning of the 80s was very similar to the 70s. Like The Shining, I would think is a 70s
Yeah.
film
Mhm.
because it was 1980.
Yeah.
But the latter end of the 80s was almost like its own interpretation.
Yeah.
I don't think it was as
Yeah.
heavily
Well, it's like
inspired
any other decade.
by...
I think when you get to the end of a decade or the beginning, it's always kind of
Yeah,
it's that transition.
the 5-year transition.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, you look at some of the movies that they made, like Terminator 2, right? Direct sequel from Terminator, which came out in 1984.
It was
And
aliens.
then
or robots.
7 years later, they come out with Terminator 2. But the visual effects, the way they took that story and said, you know what? What if the Terminator, instead of it being just a soulless killing machine, what if we tried to put a soul into that machine? And then, I mean, that's why Terminator 2 is regarded as one of the... They took the protagonist, this fucking killer, and turned him into our hero. I've never seen a movie being able to do... Can you imagine if they did like, oh, Michael
Yeah,
Myers,
but-
he's a bad guy?
Yeah.
Let's make him...
Let's be honest, Brian.
Uh-huh.
They did that because of the money aspect.
I don't think so. I think he was just that was like a good idea, and he
Right,
wanted
'cause
it.
Arnold
yeah,
was-
they saw that Arnold was a
was
cash
marketed
cow at
as
that
a
point,
hero.
and they knew if we could make this guy a hero and look at his career,
Yep.
I mean,
the proof is in the pudding.
it was probably right off the heels of Kindergarten Cop, one of the greatest films.
They were like kindergarten cop.
He's
this
not a
guy,
tumor.
Yeah. No, but I mean,
That's
I'm
a
not
great
disagreeing
point.
With you,
That's
but
a
my
great
point
point,
is
yeah.
they saw him and they went, okay, if we just change the story and we somehow make this believable, where this guy is somehow the hero now, we could spin off this, and then it could turn into a bunch of other things like True Lies.
Okay.
I mean, there's a bunch of movies that came off the heels.
You know
of
what
that
though?
movie.
That, can I piggyback off of that for a second?
Piggyback.
Piggyback, jump on.
Notice the difference between the way they approach that as opposed to the way they approach movies today. Like they said, we got to make this guy a good guy, but how are we going to make it make sense? And they did. Nowadays, they're like, Star Wars? Oh, we got to put women in this movie. Just fucking put them. Oh, we
Yeah,
got to
but
put these porgs in there.
can I
Just
tell
put
you
them so we
why?
can make toys.
Can I tell you why?
Yeah.
Because we're like the whole political correctness factor now
Uh-huh.
in today's social economic status versus then, it's huge, Brian. So now they're just like, oh, we don't have to make it make sense. Let's just make it happen.
That's the point. And it's really
make it PC.
At least they
let's make it
tried with that
PC.
movie.
And that's the thing is they actually had to put thought into it, and I think that it's because that people were much more aware. I don't want to say they were more intelligent, but it was a lot harder to fool people then than now, because you could sell people on political bullshit now versus actual substance.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
You think a lot of people just go on the bandwagon now?
I think people just they
Whatever is
they
whatever
gravitate
is good.
towards ideals, and they hold on to that. So they're like, "Oh, it's all women. Oh, I'll jump on that. I'll buy into that."
But it's not true though, because they tried to do that with Ghostbusters, and we were like, "Not fucking watching.
No,
it.
no,
We just
no,
don't
no.
want you to make a movie."
No, meaning that's what they want to force us.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah. But with this one, they're like, I know that people want Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, and there is a
Well, that's-
group,
they
but
try to
Brian,
figure
but
out a
there
way.
is a group out there that will buy into, oh, it's all women. They gotta support us. But that's not the masses.
Yeah.
See, Hollywood thinks that's the masses because, listen, it's just like anything
bubble.
else. Well, no, it's just like anything else, whether it's business or anything. The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
It's always been that way.
But do you
in
notice
all
right
time.
here? You notice
and
how
people of that stature fucking complain.
Yeah.
I'm being abused. I'm not being heard. This, that. So now we cater to them, not realizing these people are the fucking minority. But they don't think they're a minority.
it's because of social media.
Because they fucking complain.
yeah.
But they're the minority. Minorities complain. We talked about this with reviews, with buying a product or looking at something.
Yeah.
People that aren't satisfied complain. It doesn't necessarily make them the majority. But the problem is, whether it's a business or it's Hollywood, they cater to those people and they structure their business now to them. And that's not necessarily what we want.
Do you think? Do you
the
think?
complainers are louder than the masses.
100%.
Do you think that that's just something that started now, or do you think it's always been a thing?
I think it's always been, but now, like we were talking about with social
I think
media.
it's acceptable now. That's the difference. Is because when people complained before in different times, people were like, shut the fuck up. And we're like,
just
oh,
said,
wait,
okay,
gotta
I
shut
guess
the
we have
fuck
to.
up.
Yeah.
Because we shut them down.
Yeah.
Whereas now, with technology and social media, you can shut them down.
You can try.
And
That's
people
what I was
get
gonna
very
say.
scared when you can't shut someone down.
More people have the ability to
You
have their voice heard.
Right, you could tell them to shut up, but they could just keep typing
Yeah.
and they can keep spewing their voice. And then businesses look, and again, if the majority of those people are the ones complaining and actually participating versus the masses, which are just like, no, we're happy. Because people that are content do nothing.
That was
and
the thing, yeah.
contentness breeds. just
They're not
doing-
detractors or
Right. Right. They're not promoting and they're not detractors.
Yeah,
they're just
promoters or
neutral. They're just sitting
detractors.
there. Versus people that are either promoting the business or detracting. And detracting is a much more powerful voice than even promoting or neutral. It's just a reality.
But it's being very counterproductive because they're trying to like
I
figure
agree.
out a way, and it's just pissing us off even more.
It's
I
funny
agree.
that you mentioned the Terminator because every time I think of the Terminator, I think of Arnold as a good guy.
The Terminator. Yeah, you do.
I
Right?
don't. Yeah,
he's
I
the
don't even-
bad guy
I
in
don't
the
even
first
think
one.
of the original one.
Yeah.
And the original is by far the best.
I think of
So-
that guy.
I don't know. The Terminator 2 was pretty
like, mold
awesome.
in his arm. He was like that fucking metal guy.
Yeah, the T-1000.
I'm the T-1000 motherfucker.
yeah, yeah.
Well, the thing is that is because
So badass.
listen, it's been proven
Hasta
time
la
and time
vista.
again in Hollywood and in real life that people like the underdog. And as much as Arnold is this big, powerful figure versus this very frail T-1000. Because as
Yeah.
far as stature, like that guy was a very small
Yeah,
guy. that
physical
actor. As
stature,
far as
yeah.
But you
physical
saw what he can
versus
do.
Arnold.
Yeah.
But he was a much more superior robot being than
In
Arnold's
that-
robot.
in that movie, yep.
Arnold was just
He was
a
an
robot.
upgraded version. He was like version 2.
Well, he could turn into like liquid. He could mold himself. He was just superior.
Yeah.
And Arnold was the underdog as far as robots go.
He could barely speak English.
I think the movies that have a lasting effect.
T-1000 actually only says one thing in that whole movie. Does anyone know what it is?
Get out.
Get out.
And the guy's like, oh no, and he goes when he's like,
It's the
say
helicopter.
that's a real nice bike. He says that line too.
Oh fuck, he does.
He does say that line.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's two things
Chris
that
was
guy
stumped.
says.
No, and he goes, have you seen this boy? And he's got a picture of Chuck.
All right, so he says like 5 things in that movie. I only remembered one.
He
Get
also
out.
says, Christopher Felico, I've said more than 5 words in this movie. He says it at the end of the movie.
"Dude, I wish you referenced me."
I
in that
said
movie.
more than get out.
And have you seen this boy? You know what I was thinking is that the movies that seem to stand the test of time, they had a point to make. They had some kind of message, or they were asking a pretty valid question at the time, right? You know, like Jurassic Park was asking the question:
Or-
if we were able to,
Yeah,
should
but I don't
we
think
do
that's
this?
why Jurassic
would say
Park
a lot of-
stood the test of time.
A lot of movies
Oh, it's
that
'cause of the
stand
visual
the test
effects.
of time have an iconic moment. Or line, obviously,
Mhm.
Yeah,
in the movie.
it's definitely
Like Indiana Jones.
Indiana
you know?
Jones, too.
Yeah. That boulder scene where he's running.
Dude,
he's like,
yeah,
the boulder's-
everyone
he's like, oh
remembers
god, I
that,
gotta run
yeah.
away from this boulder.
yeah. They replicated it in Disney World or MGM Studios.
I got
whatever
to
the
do
hell
it
it's called now.
when I was a kid. I remember there was like this like fake boulder, and I got
Yeah,
to
no,
like
Jurassic
pretend to
Park,
run behind it.
While there's a lot of
Jaws.
philosophy and stuff behind that, as far as thought-provoking issues in Jurassic Park, that's not why it stood the test of time. It's because it's the first time we actually saw fucking dinosaurs on a screen and it actually looked real.
That's for like the mainstream
That's what I'm
audience, I
saying.
guess. Yeah.
Meaning, as far as like, that's why that movie stood the test.
Well, then
of
how
What
come?
was it? Animatronics,
because that
right?
that movie was a book for a long time prior to that, and no one gave it a second thought.
But you're
Wasn't
talking
it
about
supposed to-
blockbusters.
wasn't it a
Well,
lot
I
of-
could make that a movie.
Was it animatronics?
No,
in,
that was
Jurassic
like
Park?
special. It was
Which one? For
animatronics
what?
and
For Jurassic Park?
It was animatronics.
it was no
and
and
visual
animatronics
effects.
and
yeah.
visual effects.
Yeah, it was
well,
a perfect harmony.
animatronics, Steven Spielberg
the
did that,
bigger
and he
dinosaurs
did...
like the T-Rexes, the Brontosauruses, that's all visual effects.
Uh-huh.
The smaller raptors, well, the raptors in some parts are visual effects. The close-ups where they're with the actors are either animatronics or visual effects, depending on what the scene is.
That's why a lot of people think Jaws is the best shark movie.
Well,
Because the
I
animatronics
agree, because
make
you
it
get
look
like
realistic.
these movies like Deep Blue Sea. People are like, oh, the Jaws shark looks fake. Like, okay, have you ever seen Deep Blue Sea? You want to tell me what a fucking fake shark looks like? Or The Meg?
Yeah,
Like, this
that's what I was just
crap.
about to say.
Yeah,
That new movie, The Meg, it's... Come
Dude,
on.
it's doing
it
well.
Looks
People
ridiculous.
actually went to see that piece of crap. You know why?
First of all,
Because
Shark
people
Week.
like
No, Shark Week.
strongly disagree.
Did you watch it?
Meg, masterpiece.
yeah.
Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it.
But it looks ridiculous.
But you know what though? There's that thing I was saying before we even did the podcast where I was like, sometimes there's movies you just want to shut your brain off and just enjoy what's happening. Like when I go watch a zombie movie, I'm like, dude, I just want to see this because this is gonna be awesome. When like that in Dawn of the Dead, when they're in the mall, I'm like, this is awesome.
But are
dude.
you talking about the original or the new?
Either one. They're in the mall. They're in both movies. They're in the mall. And both ones have that same mentality. Like, dude, we're in the mall now. Like, let's just enjoy
Well, you know what's
life.
funny about those two movies is let's just take Dawn of the Dead versus the original, right? So you have the George A. Romero version versus the new 2004 Hollywood, which is one of the first movies I actually legally saw rated R. First one was actually Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind with you.
Which I saw illegally.
That movie's
The
rated
first
R?
movie I ever saw high
Yeah.
was Dawn of the Dead.
It's amazing.
Wow.
So the original, typical zombies, slow moving, whatever. The new one, they ran, if you remember.
oh yeah, they ran.
zombies
I was
ran.
running. I was terrified.
So what do you find more scary?
the runners.
The ones that run?
the runners.
There's something about them moving slow and coming in groups that freaks me
No,
out.
do you remember that scene when she's driving out with her car and her husband's like fucking really? He's like Usain Bolt. Like, I'm gonna catch you. I'm like, nope, I'm out.
I think people are afraid of the slow demise, which is you're saying. It's
Yeah.
almost as if you see it coming,
Right, and you
then
can't stop it.
You can't.
Right, whereas you expect when they're running at you, like, oh, there's nothing you could do. Like, you've come to terms with it versus when they're coming slow and you're like looking for a way out and you realize there's
Oh my God, I'm
none.
against the wall. There's no way
It's
out.
more psychological. I
Yeah, it's
think.
like the walls closing in on you.
Right.
Having
Yeah.
said that,
I
I'd be
feel
more
more-
afraid if they're sprinting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, if I had
Yeah, I'm
no,
fucking into that.
100%. If I was in this
I'm like,
scenario,
oh my God.
I would much rather deal with them walking because obviously
Yeah.
Walking Dead has proven that you can clearly just run around these 500.
They call
of
them walkers.
Minus Michael Myers, obviously.
Texas
He's
Walker.
Yeah, Michael Myers and Jason
Oh,
Voorhees. you
gold
can't-
medal.
Something.
walking.
You know what? You know what it is about the. I think it's the same aspect with the serial killers. How when they're walking to you, it's almost like they're trying to like be kind of condescending or something. They're like looking and like, oh my god. This
Oh,
guy's-
you think
this
you're gonna
guy's-
get away?
This guy's playing with me, you know.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to say you're a little bitch. You know, I don't even have to
It's-
fucking chase you. I'm gonna get you.
You'll
It's so
eventually
funny
fall.
It's
that
only
you
a
think you're
matter
gonna
of
get away.
time.
Yeah.
The clock is
Right,
ticking.
well, again, it's psychological. It's
Yeah.
all in your mind. Like, eventually,
can
I'm going
run.
to get you. You can
Or you'll
run,
give up.
but
Some-
it's over.
There's that question they say, dude. You know what? No matter what we do,
It's
It's
the
only a
cliche.
matter of time.
It's the cliche saying you can run but you can't hide.
and they even say that he's like, we are the Walking Dead. We're the Walking Dead, not them, because we're gonna die at some point, and we're gonna become them. And that's like that one line that they use in The Walking Dead, where I was like, oh shit, it's a pretty badass line. But I don't even know what I was saying. I think we were just talking about how like I like to shut off my brain when it comes to certain movies, you know.
Yeah.
And I know that we all do that with when we all have our certain genres.
Yeah.
Like some people like watching, poop comedies. or
Chris is
whatever.
horror. For the most part, you've always been horror.
Generally speaking, I've always been horror. As I've gotten older,
Drama?
and now I have kids and a wife,
Cartoons?
cartoon. I like Peppa Pig.
I forgot about that
Peppa Pig or what is it, Bubble Guppies?
Bubble
Oh.
Vampirina or
Yeah,
some
Vampire.
crap?
Oh my god,
Those
that-
are the
that-
things.
No, but in all seriousness, there's something about having a child. Like, there's certain horror movies I can't watch now because it's not even about me now. Like, I watch it and I'm like, oh my god, what if my kid experienced... You know what I mean? Like, well, no, you don't know what I mean. But
No, well, when my niece, like, I think of things like that. Where, I saw a movie and there's a kid that got killed, and I was like, oh my god, like, what if
it's not even
Elizabeth-
about...
yeah.
the
Crash?
kid. It doesn't even necessarily
Yeah.
have to be a kid that has to be killed. It's just like, I'll watch something and I'm like, I get so freaked out because, like, I get in the back of my head, like, I don't even want to, like, think about it, like, subject my child to it.
Yeah.
Like, it can't exist.
Yeah.
It's just it's a really surreal and weird feeling. But there's some things that just transcend that. Like the new Halloween movie, I'm gonna be all over. I was all over the It movie because there's that nostalgia factor.
All over that.
Suspiria, I'm all over. Which my wife will not go see with me, so I'll have to probably go see.
So
with you
a
on that.
horror film that stands the test of time, and we're actually going back before the 70s.
Well, that's not fair because it's gonna be Frankenstein's
Psycho?
and like
House on Haunted Hill, Vincent Price.
I don't know.
Yeah, that movie was so scary.
Dude, that movie's great.
Dude, we rented that from Haverstraw Library.
There's one of the scariest parts in it.
It is
That woman.
outside of her floating out. It's clearly a doll.
Yeah.
But the part where they're knocking, like the guy gets knocked in the head, and he's knocking on the wall. He's like, and the woman's on the other side, and she's knocking. She's like, "Oh, I feel a house spot," and she gets up, and this woman that looks like
Spoiler
Gene
alert.
Wilder on coke,
Yeah.
is just like behind her, and she's like, "Ah!" and she's making a weird face, and then she floats out, and like even Tom Savini, who was the makeup effect artist for the original Friday the 13th and for Dawn of the Dead, said that was the scariest horror movie seen.
They
in
don't
history.
call Vincent Price the king of horror for no reason. And he did a great job in Thriller.
I'm gonna move over
To the 90s, right?
Well, the 90s we can go over, but I kind of want to
Did
like
we do the 80s?
we kind of did the 80s.
We did a lot of these.
We did a lot of the 80s. The night. I mean, I don't want to jump because we talked about 70s briefly. We talked about the 80s.
Strikes Back.
But the 90s had their share. I mean, we talked about Terminator 2 and like Forrest Gump and then The Matrix,
Shawshank Redemption.
Redemptions,
Fight
and all
Club.
that stuff. So the 90s had good movies too, but you can see inspiration from older movies, Like The Matrix talks about the machines, but it does it in a different take on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm like, look, see, it's taking inspiration from movies from the 80s and 90s, but it's doing its own spin, right?
What was thought provoking? I feel like the 90s.
Well, you were saying 70s and 80s, you meant.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Or for example, the 90s, they did another
the
one. Like
90s
Godfather,
was-
they used Goodfellas.
Yeah, the 90s was very much the 70s just with technology.
Yeah.
And
And different
a lot of
takes.
In different takes, but they, like you said, there was a lot of thought provoking, and it was very religious or philosophical. Like the Matrix in itself is very religious slash
It
philosophical.
has religious undertones and
Yeah.
philosophical undertones too.
It's
yeah,
very
you're right.
Even
philosophical.
Star Wars. But that's the thing, is like Star Wars. Here's a huge, big budget sci-fi.
It's pretty much
action
Nazi
movie.
Germany versus like
No,
fucking-
it's actually
they
it's
call them
good.
stormtroopers.
No,
I
but
mean
it's
that's
good versus evil. It really
Yeah.
is. Like the light side, the dark side.
yeah.
There's a lot of good versus evil,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of religion into it as far as with the powers and how they're used. So
Could you
I
make
think
a-
that the '90s was very much
Yeah.
like the '70s.
Could you even make a connection like Shawshank Redemption is like a '90s version of like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest,
It's kind of
right? Do you see what I mean? There's very
It's a
but it's a
it-
different take.
It's
yeah.
a mixture of that and Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah. And then so like
I don't go.
so I'm gonna move over to like
But the 90s is when you have Jim Carrey.
yeah.
He comes into life, baby.
Now in the 2000s,
94.
Yeah, but the
90
'70s you had
Dude, 94 is the greatest year ever in movies. You got Dumb and Dumber, you got Ace Ventura, and then you have The Mask.
Now I'm gonna jump.
And I'll leave it there.
Ace Ventura wasn't '94.
Yeah, it was.
It was the same year as
Look it
Dumb
up.
and Dumber.
Yeah, it was the greatest year ever.
I thought
He had
that was
3
'93.
films in 1 year. Look it up. Can you? Well, Chris, look it up.
So in the
Because Brian's on something.
yeah,
right now.
I want to jump over to the 2000s now because the 2000s.
Can we just talk about Truman Show as well in '99?
Well, the Truman Show is weird because that's way ahead of its time.
Yeah,
Because that's what's happening to us.
that's like, yeah.
We're
ahead
constantly
of its
being
time.
watched, and then we start to wonder what's real and what's not real. Is this person being real?
That
with
is
me?
very philosophical in a way too.
Yeah, because he understands. Is this real? And like, if you would you want to know?
What it's really saying is your perception is your reality, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's
Well,
Real.
that was
Yeah.
that was Jim Carrey's version of The Matrix.
Yeah,
yeah.
sort of
Which
speak,
is
'cause
the
you
same
thought,
year.
You thought it was
Right,
like
the same
this is
year.
real.
99, both 99, right?
I have no idea. I could check that one.
Was The Matrix
Truman
99?
Show? Yeah, but the Truman Show was not '99.
Was it 98?
Truman Show was '98.
98. Yeah, now it came out. In
It's
99.
close though. It's
It
close.
is close, yeah.
So you're saying they stole?
But the thing is, though,
They ripped them
No,
off.
the Matrix is much. It's much more. It's not as subtle. Because
No,
the
it's-
Truman Show is kind of subtle.
Yeah.
no. See, I would argue
You don't
it's
think?
the opposite because I think when things are more serious and slow paced, people think more. Like that's more thought provoking because it's slower. It's easier to see because you're doing the whole commercials in the midst of like this isn't real because he's realizing it. Whereas Neo's realizing it, but there's a lot of people that went for that just because it's like, because of the special effects
But I
and
almost,
the action.
I almost
pack.
thought it's more room for interpretation because you kind of don't know what's going on for the most part in the Matrix. Truman Show, it's pretty black and white.
But that's my point. Is because you don't know what's going on. I think unless you're really looking for it, it's going over your head, and a lot of people looked at it as like, "Oh, it's a great action movie."
I guess I look at it as
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like, it's like
I
it
look
may
at
have
it,
gone over their head.
but I look at it as the less story that you have, the more room for interpretation and.
well,
and
I agree with
thought.
you, but again, we're saying the word interpretation, but people may interpret that differently, and because it's not as obvious, because it's
Well, the
There's a-
action-packed effect may give you.
so I'm saying
It's almost like you turn
it
your brain off in that
desensitizes
sense,
you.
like
It
we were talking
desensitizes
about.
you towards a message. Whereas Truman Show, there's no action to desensitize you. It's this is clear.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that lives in a bubble that's supposed to be a world, and he realizes now that his world is fixed. It's a TV show, and now I gotta escape.
Yeah.
It's clear cut.
One of the coolest lines, and I'm reading it right here, was when Christoph says to him, "Say something," and Truman says, "Was nothing real?" He goes, "You were real," and that's what makes it so good to watch.
Right.
That's a fucking crazy line right there, because he's like, "Yeah, this isn't real, but you were. You made it real."
Right. You created this
So,
existence.
yeah.
You were the existence.
That's interesting because that's like saying like the world
very
we live in
philosophical.
right now. Yeah.
And if I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good night.
He's
Right?
good morning, good afternoon, good afternoon, good evening, and good
Good
night.
night, good afternoon, good evening.
Yeah,
good
a
night.
little bitch. But now I'm gonna jump into.
That's a
like,
great movie, though.
It is a great movie. I'm gonna jump into the 2000s now.
Let's jump
and
in.
it's the same thing too, like The Dark Knight, right? That's taking another movie and it's a different take on it, different take on the character. Yeah, there's source material to play off of, but that source material was around back then as well. I mean, The Dark Knight Returns That was by Frank Miller. That came out in 1985.
Yeah, that's a graphic novel.
No, I'm saying that source because he was playing off that source
No,
material, which
I
was
get that.
out when they made the first Batman movies.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
If you
1989,
if you just
right?
look at
Was the first one?
1989.
yeah, if you look at
Well, not the Adam West. So I'm talking
if
about
you
Michael
look at
Keaton.
Batman in general, like right, so you have Adam West was very pop culture, was nothing like the comic books.
Holy cranky Batman!
He was a more what would be the word, Brian?
Who, you're
was
talking
a-
about the
he was
Batman
a-
from the Christopher Nolan?
No, like Adam West was a like glamorized version of the original Detective
He's
Comics.
flamboyant. I would say he's flamboyant. He's very
Yeah, I
out
was,
there.
I was trying to be nice. Yeah,
No,
flamboyant.
he's very flamboyant. He's very like, almost like a Looney Toony, cartoonish.
Yeah, well, it
you
fit
know?
the '60s.
It fit the 60s. They were
So-
very wackos.
It's not
Then
as
you
dark.
had Michael Keaton's, which Tim Burton's was a much more dark take compared to that. But then
As his
you
always
take
are.
Christopher Nolan, actually made it even more dark.
Yeah.
Now the
Christian
Frank
Bale made it more
the
dark.
Frank Miller novel, right? That was out. That came out in 1985.
Yeah, in the mid to late '80s.
Now that movie came out 4 years after that novel came out, which was a smash hit. Batman Year One, that is a huge inspiration to The Dark Knight Rises or The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight. Yeah.
That came out in 1987, 2 years before. So like the source material was there, and it was smash hits when that movie came out. So yeah, they
But you know what,
chose
though?
to do
You
a darker
You gotta
tone.
think though, right? So Tim Burton is probably what 15 years older than Christopher Nolan. So you got to remember that in the back of your mind. So he still is living off of the Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
And obviously he's a dark person himself, but he's got that in the back of his mind is what he knows dark Batman is. So even though that was source material, it was so new that he already had in his mind what he wanted Batman to be.
Yeah.
So it was a darker version of what he knew Batman as
Well,
the
yeah.
Adam West / Detective Comics.
What I'm trying to do is I'm not trying to discount what Christopher Nolan did because somebody could say, well, he played off of these novels that were out, but like those novels were out when the
No, but
first
he brought,
movie was
yeah, but he
came
brought
out.
them to life.
He brought them to life, and it was a different take on another character that was already done before, and that's why I'm like, you see these movies that were, if you got a remake or a reboot, they actually went in a different direction that was completely different from their old source material.
Right.
And that's why I was like, this is interesting. But when you look at the movies today, they're not doing that,
Well,
dude.
that's
It's
like-
the same. Like when they made The Thing remake, it's the fucking same movie, just with a girl in it and like
Oh,
terrible
the
effects.
2011 one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
What a piece of shit.
Right.
And that's
Well,
what-
they tried to do the 1982 one over, and it was like, all right, this is stupid. Well, that's why, like, Halloween, even though Rob Zombie, like, I didn't like them, but at least he went out there and tried to make a different take on it.
He did
I
try a
didn't
different take.
necessarily like his vision,
no.
but it was a different vision, I will say that.
But if it's not your original thought, you're gonna have some sort of origin
Here's the
that
problem.
you're based off of.
If you're gonna go with a movie that was like Halloween,
Mm-hmm.
that's got a cult following. It's regarded as the beginning of horror.
It's a
movies.
tough one to remake.
Why would you do that?
Yeah,
It's
but
not-
you know what, though? I can make the same argument about Batman. Like, Tim Burton goes out and takes... The only Batman, remember, as far as on a screen at that point, is Adam West. Michael Keaton's Batman couldn't be any more different, and it succeeded.
yeah, but do you
so-
see what happened though?
Well, hold on, but I'm going to say, is you have to... I think you have to have a wherewithal of where you are during the times and what people want and what they're looking for and what's going to work. And Michael Keaton's Batman in the late 80s, that worked compared to the 60s Batman. And then you come to our Batman, we only now know Michael Keaton and Adam West. So if you come out with either or, it's like, it's going to be the same thing. As a lot of people were complaining at that time that nothing's original. Because in the early 2000s, everything was fucking remakes.
But did you see? So what happened with Batman? Because I love Batman.
In 1989,
Yeah, 1989. So that was a smash hit. Then
The
they
cr-
went darker,
the
right?
crazy thing I'm thinking
Well,
about the
that's what I'm
1989.
saying. This-
But then they went backwards and said, "All right, go back to campy again," and they did fucking George Clooney like Batman and Robin and
Yeah, but
and
no,
Arnold
darker.
Schwarzenegger.
Oh, you're talking
With
about
with
after
Batman-
Michael.
Batman
You're talking about
Returns.
after Michael.
Yeah, so they didn't work, so they went backwards.
But the 90s became very flamboyant.
it did.
I'm actually thinking about this right now, and I think that the 1989 version of Batman may have succeeded because people were looking for a darker edge. that's maybe why the grunge era
Yeah, grunge
was
is
successful.
right after.
It's
yeah.
because there was a dark time back in the 80s as well. You know, it was a lot of terrible shit going on, like the drugs and all that shit.
Yeah.
It was very prevalent.
crack is whack.
You know, like look at like the crime rate in New York itself was bad. And then Rudy Giuliani came and said, I'm fucking cracking down on this shit. So like it's a reflection of the times, correct.
But that's what I'm saying is you
yeah.
have to have the wherewithal to know.
But
Yeah.
then we go to The Dark Knight, and like you said, it's a darker version.
And it's a fresher
there was
take.
There was one part of that movie that really made me think, and it's when the Joker is in the hospital and he's talking to Two-Face when half of his face
Well,
is
he's
actually
not.
burned.
He's not Two-Face yet. It's still Harvey Dent.
Even when he's in the hospital.
Yeah, he's still Harvey Dent. That's
And
when
then
he makes the decision.
That
to
I
become
get.
Two-Face.
Yeah, I guess that's when he actually becomes Two-Face. So he's in the nurse outfit, and he says,
Hi.
"Hi." You'll probably know the exact line, but something along the lines of, like, it's not crazy when you see in the newspaper 1,000 troops have died, but when I say one little mayor dies, everybody goes,
freaks out.
and it was interesting because you think of that, and especially we were at war. Well, we were trying to get out of the war. We were kind of in the war, kind of getting out of the war.
Conflict.
But you see like 200 people die in Afghanistan, and you don't think
And
one
no one
thing about
flinches. That's
you,
normal.
You don't
That's
think one
standard
thing about it,
operating
and
procedure.
then you see someone was murdered as in a robbery or something along those lines. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, that's crazy. That's right in our town. But I mean, it's still American. There's still 200 Americans being murdered. It's just a matter of being
Right, he
in
was trying to
war.
say that, like some
in
things you've
Afghanistan.
just become so desensitized to, and there's some things where you're just like, oh,
But it was almost like a light bulb went off,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh my God, it really makes sense that we see this perspective, and it's
like we excuse some death and we don't even like flinch.
That's what
And
I'm
there's
just
some
because
things
it's
where we're like, oh my God.
it's almost the expectation that someone's gonna die. You almost know going into it. It's like we're going into war. You know people are gonna die.
Well, it's like what did Dad always say when we were big motocross riders when we
Mm-hmm.
were kids, right? He was always told us, listen, if you're gonna ride,
you're gonna
it's
get
not
hurt.
a question if you're gonna get
It's
hurt.
when.
It's when
Yeah,
and how bad.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, but so we expected we're gonna get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know how bad. You could break a bone or be paralyzed or die.
yeah.
It's gonna be something.
That's horrible. That's fucking.
But that's the thing is, so when you go to war, it's not like, oh, is anyone going to die? Yeah, obviously, people are going to die. It's about how many, and are we going to win? Like that's the question.
Yeah. But now, so there you go. That's 2000s. They did have a plethora of great movies that like were different takes.
Mystic River.
We go over to 2010s now, right? Closer to the time of movies that we have coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really give a shit about any of these. I mean, Inception was great, but that's 2010.
So that's like
So it's early.
Right, that's
Yeah.
one
I mean,
of those movies
it's in
that's
it.
flexing.
Yeah.
Birdman.
2014 had Boyhood, which I fucking
I
hate
would
that
say
movie.
Wolf of Wall Street and Birdman are the only two that I can think that are even,
Interstellar. Mad
Did you see
Max.
Interstellar?
I did see Interstellar. It's
What about Mad Max? 2015.
Mad Max. Yes, I would say Mad Max, Birdman, and Wolf of Wall Street. Interstellar. It's a little drawn out.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know. What about The Revenant?
It's a little. I did not like The Revenant at all.
I didn't
Yeah.
even watch it.
You haven't seen The Revenant? Don't.
No.
It's terrible.
I tried to watch 10 minutes of it, and
How about
I
the-
just
you know
wasn't
what
in the
bothers
mood
me is
for
that's Leo's Martin Scorsese moment. Is when you've done so many good roles that you should have won for, and they're
Yeah.
just like, we got to give him something. Like Leo shouldn't have won for that. He should have won for Wolf of Wall Street or one of the other roles he played.
My name is Jordan Belfort. The
Martin-
year I turned 26, I made $49 million. And you want to know something? I was pissed because it was $3 million short of $1 million a week.
Right, so,
What?
but like Martin Scorsese shouldn't have won for fucking Departed. Like, yeah, Departed's a nice movie, but it's nothing compared to the movies he made prior.
Dude, Mark Wahlberg should have.
They
fucking
get
won
see,
for
and that's
Departed.
here's the thing. That's the disconnect between mainstream audience and the Academy Awards. We know why they gave him the
They get guilty eventually.
yeah.
Because they hear us going, why isn't this guy winning? And they're like, all right, now we have to do it.
yeah, and that's why we all do. You guys should have given. You guys dropped the ball.
Guy should have won for The Aviator. I don't know.
It's almost
Yeah.
like a legacy award.
And honestly, that's
it's really
that is
fucking
the
in a
role.
sense.
Besides What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which Leonardo DiCaprio should have won for.
Yeah, that was a great.
that was
movie.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
As Arnie, the next role he should have won for was The Aviator. Did you guys ever
Howard
see that
Hughes,
movie?
No, he
Howard
could have won
Hughes?
for
That was
Catch
a
Me If You
great
Can too.
movie, too.
Love him in that movie. He was
Yeah,
amazing in that movie.
but that's not The Aviator.
What about was it the Basketball Diaries? Is that
Yeah, but Brian,
That was
but the
long
Basketball Diaries
ago.
was not.
he should have?
That
won
was
for
probably
one,
around
dude.
Gilbert
He
Grape
was
era.
so good.
No,
in
that
it.
was
around
later.
there?
That was late 90s.
It was later?
Dude,
Okay.
I remember when I saw that movie as a kid. I was like, I should never do
Yeah, but
drugs.
that was, yeah.
like that's my
But
thought. I was
like
like,
a movie-
I agree.
Yeah, that's a movie you watch like in school, and you're like, yeah, I'll never do drugs.
No, I saw that as it was just on HBO, and I put it
No,
on.
no, I
I'm
know
not trying
that.
to plug
I'm
HBO.
just saying.
You can find us on HBO. How about the movie Sicario? 2015. That
it
movie
wasn't a
floored
big-
me.
I didn't like it that
Oh, I
much.
love that movie, man.
Didn't they
It
make a
floored me.
sequel?
Yeah, they did. They did.
Yeah,
I have not
piece of
seen
crap.
that.
Never saw it.
But you'll see the movies that are most prevalent in that
Birdman,
time.
dude.
Birdman changed the
Birdman.
game. You know what movie changed the game for me? I don't know how you guys feel about it, but for me, I thought it was perfect. Get Out.
I didn't
hated
watch it.
Oh,
Stupid.
dude, I love that
Stupid
movie. You know what it was? You know one of the things that was hilarious?
Jordan Peele
It was
directed
hilarious
that,
that
right?
it was made. People actually
Jordan
nominated.
Peele
No, it-
directed that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was his take on like he
Racism?
explains. He's like, dude. Like for example, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to pick sides or anything, but like liberals tend to, kind of be racist, even though they don't think they're being racist, and that's what he was trying to highlight in this movie. He was saying,
Oh, then I like it. No, I'm just kidding.
that's what he said. So he's saying, but when the guy's like, oh, I loved Obama. He was a great president. Like, what the fuck? Why are you fucking telling me that? Are you telling it to me because I'm black and that's why you're saying it? That's kind of racist. And he's trying to highlight that, dude, liberals can be racist when they say dumb shit like that. Like, dude, that has nothing to. That means you don't see me as an individual. You only see me for the color of my skin, and now you're just talking about things that happen to be about black people, and that's not.
I agreed.
That's extremely racist.
I agreed with what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
It's
Did
just
you
the-
watch it?
I did. I've seen the
I didn't
movie,
see
and the
it.
funny thing is that movie actually kind of scared me a little
Oh,
bit.
terrifying, dude.
It was terrifying, and then
The
it,
paralysis. Oh,
no, but that's what I'm saying. Is once you got to that part though, it kind of started to go a little bit out there where it detracted. I felt
Yeah.
from the rest of the movie, and then it got back on track. But that one, it's just like anything else. There's sometimes that one segment where it kind of pulls you for a loop.
yeah.
And you're like, oh, it just kind of doesn't make as much sense as where I thought I was going.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get back on track.
It-
I mean,
It's funny when I saw
I
the
say it
movie.
was stupid, but it was overall an okay movie.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was as good as people make it. People make it like it's like
Oh,
the,
no.
the
That's a huge
Citizen Kane
reflection.
of this era.
It's a huge
and it's
reflection
not.
of our time because
People are stupid. I agree.
it was showing us that, like, dude, like if you're black in this country and you have even the guys that are supposedly the guys on your side, whatever I'm saying, but that's what the movie is trying to imply. Dude, you guys don't fucking know us. Like, you don't know what it's like. But and these guys are like evil as shit, and they're trying to portray good guys, but they're coming off as condescending and borderline racist. And I was like, that's a fucking such an instead of him going, well, I can go the other route and say, okay, yeah, the people in the South are people, Southern people can be racist and whatever, like Nazis or KKK. He didn't do that. He said, okay, we know that's obvious. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm going to show you how this can
Matt,
be
do
racist
you know the
too.
point of the movie?
No.
Okay, so the point
Spoiler
of the,
alert.
Spoiler alert. So the point of the movie is the main character is an African American. He gets seduced and starts dating a white girl.
Oh no! You know what?
who
I know.
Now brings her to the family, and the family's all like
Yeah.
pro-black. Oh, we loved Obama. This, and that. And he starts noticing that like the black people.
but they really weren't.
on no. So like they are. So just wait for me. So he starts noticing the black people that like amongst them are kind of like not there.
Yeah.
Not slaves, but like just not there. Like not like they very quiet.
Although they have jobs that are very slave-like.
They do. They
Yeah.
have they're slave-like, but they just like it seems like there's something wrong with
Were
them.
they possessed?
No. So it turns out
Something along those lines.
no, it's
Right?
not that they're possessed. So the whole purpose is, so this family basically what they do is they use their very attractive white girl to attract this black man to basically come, and they take these black people and they use them for their bodies because they're trying to say that black
They're
people
hosts.
are more they're hosts because black people are obviously taller, more athletic than white people, so they say, and so basically the purpose is they get them there they take their mind out and they now take, like, let's say it's like our grandfather or white grandfather,
yeah.
and they put
Okay,
their
so
brain
Simi-
into their mind,
Simi
and now
told me a
they're
little bit about this.
hosting the white person.
What's scary
So
is
they're
that,
using him as a vessel.
yeah,
Correct.
And what's scary is that their mind isn't
Like,
actually taken out.
it's
Their
almost like-
mind's there. They can see everything that you're doing. So like if you come into my body,
Uh-huh.
I'm just
You could
I'm a
see it,
third
but you have
party.
no control.
I'm third
Right.
party to this
Okay.
whole operation. You are now in control of my body. You are the
It's
mind.
almost like watching someone play a video game.
yeah, with
Where
my
you
body.
see it happening,
Right.
you're like, oh my
It's
god.
like you're there and you
Fucking
can't do anything
insane,
about
dude.
it.
Insane. That's I mean, right there.
Except
that
for
plot.
that,
whoa.
except for that white guy that stops the girl.
Yeah, except for that one
I'm
guy.
sorry, the one black guy that was like a grandpa. That's
yeah.
the girl.
Listen, man, that movie.
She's like, Grandpa, no.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
There's a little bit of Invasion of the Body
Yeah.
Snatchers. And again, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is very.
That's a great take on that.
No,
Actually,
but that's
that
very
might where they
that's
got
very to that time
some
because at that
inspiration, yeah.
point we were worried about Russia, the
Yeah.
Cold War, and everyone was thinking like the Russians are going to come, they're going to turn us into these cold-hearted bastards, those rusky pricks. I love
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall.
Oh, it's even pre-Gorbachev.
Dude,
so
all right.
I know, I was kidding.
So like that's a movie where I was like, that is like not only is it like
it's a
making
good concept.
it's a great concept, it's making a nice statement, it's giving me information that I
I'll have
never
to watch
otherwise
it.
would have thought of.
I thought it was very creative, but there was like you'll see it maybe one day, and there's like a couple of parts where it's just in the middle. It kind of I felt like it got a little bit off track. Like he could have stayed a little bit more to where he started and connected it to the end of the movie. Because I thought that the end was good. I thought the beginning was good. There's like a 10 to 15 minute period in the middle in that like what
It's
you
turning
said.
into like very like Children of the Corn almost felt like,
Yeah,
oh,
it
like what is
just-
this?
It was like it was like we start with this concept, all of a sudden we're going into another genre kind of, and then we got back into my
Ezekiel?
genre.
Here's the thing
Yeah,
though.
it was weird.
The whole time though, like there was little things where like for example, when he got pulled over by the police officer, right? And the cop's like, I need to see his driver's license too. He's like, okay, here you go. And he's getting his driver's license. She's like, why didn't you see his driver's license? And this is the white girl saying it. Why didn't you see it? And she's
Oh.
going over the top. And he's like,
Like,
you don't.
oh, you're racist.
Yeah, like you're
Because
racist
he's
because you.
black.
Yeah, why are you doing? He's like, dude, no, I don't care. That doesn't matter in reality. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit about that. I'll give him my license. He's a fucking cop. I just do it. But she's like, no, he's and it's like she
It's
doesn't
almost like
see.
they're catering to the fact that they're black and they're pointing out like everyone else is racist. 'cause
like a
they're
social justice warrior kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, you're overreacting on this one. And I was like, oh my god, he's saying
You're
when
making
you
a bigger deal
overreact-
of it than it should be.
Yeah, and that comes off as racist too.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, oh
Because you're not
shit.
treating. You're not
Well,
treating
yeah, it
them
was
equal.
ironic because his message, like, it's funny. If you're super conservative, you probably don't like that movie because you think it's something that's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But he's really making fun of his own idealistics.
Yeah.
That's the funny part. He probably doesn't realize
It's like-
it, though.
No, he's making fun of like he's saying like, dude, listen, stop trying to act like you understand because you really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate like he's trying to say I appreciate the whole fucking helping us out, but like you're coming off very ignorant, and I'm like that is a fucking awesome way to look at it.
Because the fact is, if you're on either side of the spectrum,
Yeah.
what's really happening is that you're not treating us equal.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fact.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're making a big deal out of it because I'm black, and I understand that you're trying to stick up for me,
Yeah.
but it's undermining me because I could stick up for myself. I'm just a normal citizen.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to be treated
That's
like.
exact and that and like dude and I never thought
Well,
of that.
that's the thing is because it's not a color issue.
Yeah.
Right? Because you could be white and sympathize with African Americans, but it doesn't necessarily need to be about their color. And what he's trying to say is that there's the white people that are liberals that are just like, we just look at an African American and we defend them because we just don't want to be racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about, no, I want to defend him because he's my friend and I like him.
Yeah.
Like, I've got, my best friend is
But that-
black. So I would never, like, if someone attacked him, I wouldn't defend him because he's an African American because I'm white and I feel compelled. He's my best friend.
I thought I was your best friend.
But you are black, aren't you?
But that's the very fact that they're trying to stick up for them because they're black.
You're Jack
makes,
Black.
It makes them racist for the fact that they don't think they could
Right.
stick up for themselves.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. You're
So-
demeaning them.
Yeah, it is demeaning.
So there
Damn
you go.
liberals.
now that shows you like, hey, listen, Get Out, man. That's if it's getting us talking
Well,
about.
no,
Like,
listen.
I'll
He
have
said
to-
get out because it's clear why that guy needed to get
oh,
out.
he's like, get out of here, and his nose is bleeding.
Oh, my nose is bleeding.
Dude, there's a lot of shit in that movie that freaked me out.
that
I was
guy-
like, this movie's weird.
First time I ever saw the movie, I was in Boston.
Have you guys
I was
seen-
actually at Harvard. I was about to go to my classes in Harvard. I'm in the hotel,
Harvard.
and I'm literally like, oh, "This movie's scary." I fell asleep to it, and then woke up like 5 minutes later, and I couldn't fall asleep. I was like, "This is so scary." And I was like, "Oh, this got stupid. Oh, it's scary again." I'll go to bed.
Did you ever see the Black Mirror, the TV show Black Mirror?
Oh, of course, dude.
Dude. That guy's in
TV show's
one of the
amazing.
shows, Black Mirror.
Yeah, dude, that show is
That show's
on
crazy.
another level. All right, so TV shows on Netflix are fucking taking changes and everything. Like Marvel's like fucking making, like they're making movies or not movies, TV shows where like there's blood and guts.
Dude, the Punisher.
Punisher.
That show's amazing.
What a flawed character he is. You know how he's thinking about killing. I mean, but they ask questions like, dude, when you go after people, you put them down and then they get back up. When I go after people, they fucking stay down, and that's
that.
just. And then that raises that question, even in the fucking Dark Knight. This is going all the way back to the Dark Knight. Should he kill? Like that's the thing. Some people, and that's an interesting philosophy. You know?
Just talking about TV shows, though. A-listers are doing TV shows now.
Yeah.
Which, like, 10, even 15 years ago, no A-lister was doing a TV show. That means your career was dead.
So
But
right
now with Netflix, you have Amazon even on it, too.
Amazon.
Then you got
Hulu.
Hulu. Yeah.
Yep. Amazon was it Amazon Prime or
Yeah,
something? like
even Showtime, HBO.
they're following suit, you know, like Game of Thrones.
Well,
And
because TV
There's
is the
more
way to
money in TV now.
There's
Yeah.
more money in TV, as well as it's not. You don't have to edit it down to an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Although
I
I
mean, you
could-
could tell a story
could-
over 6 seasons.
no, and not only that, I think it's because people aren't going to movie theaters anymore.
Yeah.
They're staying at
they're
home.
binge watching TV
so
shows.
they're catering to that.
But I could argue there was always more money in TV before, just no one realized it. With syndicants, how they work.
yeah,
as
that's
far
the
as-
thing.
People didn't realize how that was going to play out as far as how you were going to get paid for every time an episode of yours was going to play on TV and who owned it, what station it plays on. Like, think about Seinfeld. That thing is played on like 5 different stations now, and they make money off of it every time it's played off of those 5 stations.
But the thing was, back then, you only had a certain amount of networks that you can actually have a TV show on.
True. Yeah.
Now, I mean, with Netflix, you can have hundreds
Yeah,
of TV
there's
shows
no
going
doubt.
at a
There's
time.
no way to have seen it at that point. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
In hindsight, there was always more money in TV. Just
Oh,
no one
absolutely.
realized
Like
it.
Friends too.
Yeah.
I mean, you see the people
Here's the thing.
that have money that that cast members are making. Oh my god,
I have
it's
I have
ridiculous.
so many different reasons why I believe TV shows are taking off and like Netflix and all that.
Mm-hmm.
One, people aren't going to movie theaters.
It's not censored too.
It's not censored. There's no commercials.
Well, that's not necessarily true. That's not censored because if a TV show is on a main, like if you're talking about Netflix TV shows, I agree. If you're talking about the TV shows that are on TV now, I think they're more censored than the ones.
Who
on
watch
Netflix.
TV shows on actual networks on cable TV now?
A lot of people.
Nah, it's
Like,
The
declining
Walking
though. People
Dead
are
is the
courting,
most popular TV show in the world. Sorry.
people are cutting their cords though.
The Walking Dead is the most.
Okay,
Popular
so you
TV
have
show in the
one
world.
show. Name another
Yeah,
one.
but it's
dude.
the most
what's
popular
the most popular
TV
TV show in the world?
I don't know if that's the most.
It's actually
popular
not.
TV
It's
shows.
dipped in the ratings.
I mean, Seinfeld's way
Right,
more.
but it
popular.
doesn't matter. When you're the most popular TV show, even if you dip, you could still be the most.
the most
popular
popular TV show in the world is Game of Thrones, and that's a fact.
Okay.
Yeah,
was
that's
it, Was it
HBO.
on Netflix?
Yeah.
No, it's HBO.
It's on HBO.
But that's not censored though.
It's not censored.
It's not as censored.
Not only
No,
that,
it's not.
not
I
only
think it's
that,
more censored than a
HBO's not
Netflix show.
it's what?
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Dude, Curb is on HBO.
Listen,
How
in Game
censored
of
is
Thrones,
that?
in Game of
Yeah,
Thrones,
I
there
guess
was a
maybe.
pregnant woman that was stabbed in the
I
stomach.
still think that The Walking Dead's more popular than
It's not
Game of
though.
Thrones.
It's not though.
no.
Which one's still on?
Game of
Okay.
Thrones
Game of
is on
Thrones.
too.
It's not on anymore.
Yeah, it is.
Game of
It's
Thrones?
over.
No.
Yeah, no.
It's gonna come out with
it's
this
coming out with another one.
Yeah,
Dude, the
believe
guy's still alive. He's making books.
yeah.
I don't believe it.
That's true. Now, even like with the uncensored thing, there, like for example, there's a scene in Breaking Bad, right? It's called IFT, which is I fuck Ted. At the end of the episode, she says, but then it blanks out fucked.
So
and
I
it
just
says
want to
Ted.
point out that on Facebook, there's 22 million viewers on Game of Thrones, and The Walking Dead is 35 million. Sorry. Go ahead.
On Facebook. That's where you got that information from.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want me to check, I can find
Checking
the
right now.
information.
I'll also argue
The-
that The Walking Dead is
listen,
on
The
free
Walking Dead-
cable versus HBO is not free.
That's true. So it probably has more viewers. But it's only one TV show. That's what I'm saying.
No, but okay, but that's what I'm talking about. Is at the end of the day, the most popular is still the most popular.
But
Doesn't
okay.
necessarily cater to the masses, but it's enough.
So would you agree in the fact that when that TV show started, it was a different time in television than it is now?
2010 isn't that much different.
I think it is.
Yeah, kind of. But there was Netflix in 2010.
So think of this. Ready?
But there wasn't as much
in
on Netflix, I will
2010,
agree
the
that.
iPhone was only available for 3 years
Yeah.
because it was made in 2007.
All right, so we're actually dead wrong on all accounts.
Wait, what do you mean?
The premiere of Game of Thrones 7th season set a series record of
A series.
10.1.
That's a
Yeah,
series. That's great. That's that series.
16 million people watched.
That's
I
like saying like
wouldn't-
the
listen.
Browns. That's like saying a Browns preseason game this year is the most
I
highly
won't
watched
even-
Browns game. Who
I
gives a
wouldn't
shit?
even debate the fact whether I'm not even talking about that. Whether The Walking Dead's more popular than Game of Thrones. I'm just saying from this point forward, if you have a new TV show idea, are you going to regular cable or are you going to Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Hulu?
No, I would agree with that. I
That's what
agree
I'm
with
saying.
that.
I'm just saying moving forward, we're in a different age than we were in the previous decade.
I think it also depends on who you are, though, too. Because I think if the reason I think Walking Dead works on regular network television is I think for that particular story, the fact that it doesn't have stars makes it more believable and actually attracts people for that particular story.
Yeah.
Where stars can get away with going to Netflix because they're names. They're drawing people to Netflix because
Yeah.
people know and they're
Well,
familiar.
you got like Netflix, even Showtime and HBO are still in the mix a little bit because
Well, which one has the show
Kidding?
that's like The Affair?
The
There's apparently big
Affair-
names
I think
in that.
it's
I think it's
yeah,
Showtime,
it's
right?
Sarah
Showtime?
Jessica Parker,
No,
right? The Affair.
I don't know. I gotta look.
Oh
it up.
no, maybe I'm thinking of the Divorce.
So right
or
here it
like
says here-
Divorce or some crap.
For Game of Thrones, it's got like 8.9 million live same day, whereas Walking Dead has 13.15 million real time same day. However, when you factor in multi-platform views, the overall number soars upward to
For
20.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, 23.3 million.
Because yeah, HBO Go too.
Whereas-
you don't have to watch it live.
Yeah. So that's
That's
another thing, and that is
And-
what we're trying to say.
But in this age, yeah, that's another benefit because it's more convenient. You could
Yep.
watch it at you could watch it at your time. You don't have to. Well, I guess also you could do AMC, but a lot of people are cutting cable.
Yeah.
That's the big
Nobody
thing.
wants to
now.
watch it because of the commercials. Because
Well,
it
but
costs
you
too
could
much.
also-
because of the
Yeah, but
packages.
That's the thing.
We
it's
get to
cost.
pick and choose.
But, like,
Cost they
I
usually
get-
do.
On demand free, and I can watch the Walking Dead episode after the fact with no
Yeah,
commercials.
but meaning you have cable though.
yeah, no, I know that.
Cable
I mean,
costs
if you don't
like
if you don't
upwards
have
of
cable, you don't have on demand
yeah.
No, I agree.
for like regular cable stations.
I'm just stating that what I can do as far as commercials. He said because of commercials.
It
We
is.
get it,
That's
dude.
huge.
You're the best.
I think it's because of money.
There's people that are so Netflix
You're
had.
not getting as much for value for cable as you are for other things. That's the reality. It has nothing to do with commercials.
I mean, it is huge because
Because you
Netflix
could
said we're
avoid
gonna
the
have to have
commercial aspect of
commercials.
it.
Netflix said we're gonna have to have commercials,
Yeah,
but
you
we're
can
gonna
DVR
raise the
something
price, and
fast
everybody said
forward
do it.
commercials.
But it's price.
It's price.
I'm with
Brian.
them on that.
Yeah.
It's
It's
price.
always been
because
no matter what era, it's always been about value for what you're getting for your money. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, what you're getting in cable for your money versus in Netflix versus other services, it's not as much. It's,
Yeah.
I can admit that, and I pay for it.
like you said with cable, you could still do on demand.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a lot more expensive to buy cable than, for instance, Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime.
So
which
that's
most
just-
people have Amazon Prime.
That's like a small part of it too, is just Netflix alone. But another reason
Mm-hmm.
why people are not going to movie theaters is because there aren't a lot of good movies to pick from nowadays. And the ones that there are you willing to shell out $15 to $20 a ticket?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Not anymore.
That's yeah.
Not anymore. I mean, like how
It
much?
has
I
to
mean,
be
it's
has to
one
be
thing-
something I have to see.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're going alone, but let's say even a date, right? You're paying $30 just for movie tickets, and then you're gonna have to go to dinner.
And some
which
people are
that's-
working.
That's another at least $30, which is probably even more. So you're talking almost $100 or $75 to $100 just for one night out.
It's just not. It's pointless to do that.
Well,
now.
you could make food at home or even use takeout. You could do takeout $25 and then watch Netflix, and you could just binge watch a show for however long you want to.
Yeah.
4 or 5 hours.
Yeah. And that's and now that like
I'll tell you what though, the binge watching though, it's great in the immediate gratification, but once it's over, it makes it
it's
that
tough.
much worse.
it is tough, but there's
Because
so many
there's
more
something-
things coming out.
Yeah, but there's something about but it also depends on how much you watch. Like so for me, I don't watch that many things. Like I watch The Walking Dead, I'm all into Stranger Things, and like a couple of other shows. So I binge watched 2 seasons of Stranger Things, and like I'm dying. Like where's 3? I literally watched 2 seasons in 2 weeks, and now so I got 2 years worth of content in a 2-week span. What do I do from here? It's now been 8 months since I watched an episode. I have no freaking clue what to do.
You know what you do? You look for another show.
I'm
That's
scratching
what a lot
my
of
arm
people
like
do.
a fucking crackhead.
That's what I do.
You know, I have a question for the people listening right now. I want to know if I'm the only one that does this, but there are certain shows like
I'll watch over.
I was gonna say like Walking Dead, right? I choose not to watch. Well, I can't. Even if I mean, I can go to my friend's house and watch it at his house, but I don't want to watch the show. I don't read spoilers, and I wait for it to show up on Netflix so I can binge watch it on purpose because I don't fucking want to sit through the commercials.
As soon as Lori died in The Walking Dead, I was done. That was the perfect ending for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
she's-
missed a lot.
That bitch.
I mean, I read the book, so I'm one of those guys.
Shut
Like, I
up.
read the books. I don't need to watch the show because the show
Yeah, but it's
sucks.
kind of strayed a little bit from the books.
It has strayed a lot from
Thank
the books.
God.
No, the books are really fantastic,
Books
dude.
suck.
You haven't even read the books.
I did read the graphic.
Well, then
novels,
you wouldn't
actually.
say that then because
I
the
read-
books
I
are
didn't like-
amazing.
I
I
don't
read every single word.
I love those books, man.
No, they're just too much.
I
It
never
wasn't
watched
very
them.
believable.
Strongly disagree on that one. But now,
So
this brings me to another point, right? A lot of things that I've noticed is the critics have somewhat of a disconnect between what they think are good movies and what the audience thinks are good movies. Would you say so?
Yeah.
Or am I wrong?
I would say people don't rely as much
yeah, I
on
don't
the
think
critics
it's I don't
as
think
they
it's so
once
much a
did.
disconnect. I think it's that critics they go into a movie knowing whether they expect to be a good movie, and no matter what the type of genre is, they're going to hold it to that standard.
Mhm.
And if it meets those standards, they will get an adequate grade based on that. And then the audience adjusts based off of what they expect. Maybe that's based off of genre. Maybe that's based off of what they want it to be. I don't like. To me, I base it off of genre. I don't know about you, Matt. Do you agree? Do you base it off of genre?
Yeah, I just my expectations based on what I think the film is going to be. While
Yeah.
the critics, they have a formula and they stick to that formula regardless of what the film is.
Yeah.
So Dumb and Dumber will have the same formula as Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Or Shawshank Redemption.
Which makes
or
no
Schindler's
sense.
List.
And that's why
You got
fans
nothing
hate
to
them.
lose.
Well,
The
I
same
don't-
formula as Schindler's List.
I don't
Yeah.
necessarily. I don't know if I agree. I agree. I know what you're saying, but there is.
Criteria.
I think there is a criteria depending on the genre because I have seen
Which would be a
comedies
formula.
get good reviews, but I will agree with you that it is much harder for a comedy or something outside of a drama. Rebuttal.
I was saying that regardless of the genre, the critics have the same formula.
I think that. No, I think they have a similar formula, but I do think they are much more conscious of the genre now than they ever were. I would agree with you that when it started, it was very much, this is what it is. You got to fit these critiques, and if you don't, you're gonna get a shitty score. I think they're getting better with the genre, but I will acknowledge that depending on the genre, you're kind of behind the 8 ball to begin with.
I couldn't even tell you if that was true or not, because I don't even listen to the critics anymore.
Yeah, no, I don't think we do either. I don't think most like, and I
No,
think
but-
that's like a millennial thing.
Dude, I look at
Maybe that
Which is
like,
kind of weird because millennials tend to go by reviews.
but they go by their own reviews. Like we read,
I don't know. Your
Or-
review is not on Google. You go on.
we go by the audience score.
they'll go by Rotten Tomatoes.
They go by Rotten Tomatoes audience score. They don't go by the Google, like whatever the fucking
Oh, I
critics.
see what you're saying.
But
You see what I mean?
I see what
But
you're
like
saying,
me,
yeah, yeah.
I'm not gonna go by Rotten Tomatoes. I'll go by people that I know that
goes
know
by
me.
Chris.
Well, yeah.
Well,
pretty
we
much.
cover this already. You
Yeah,
go by
pretty much
people-
Chris.
You go by people that you trust.
Yeah, people that I trust that know me and know the film that I would like or not.
Yeah.
Now, one of the
I'm the
things,
same way.
But
One-
I don't see many films. I see a film in theaters so infrequently that it doesn't really matter to me.
yeah, and that's the thing. I think movie theaters are gonna start to go away.
Yeah,
I don't know about
it's-
that.
I think so, dude. They're getting like
It's hard to
It's
be
only
competitive
blockbusters,
now.
yeah.
It's very difficult to be competitive now.
movie theaters are losing revenue, and the movies are saying we want more of the cut of opening weekend, and that's where movie theaters are like, well, we're not going to make any money then. Like, how are we supposed to make money if you guys are taking all
here's
of our?
What I think. This is why I disagree with you. Is there's still a bunch of movies out there that do a ton in the box office, like an Infinity War, right? Like set records, right? By that crap. Okay. So, I think what's going to happen is that movie theaters are going to become more selective of what comes in there.
So
into
you're
their
saying
theaters.
you're saying
Is that,
they set records?
There's going to be a lot more independent films that are maybe straight to video or whatever streaming devices versus hitting the theaters. Theaters are going to become more selective of what they let in there as far as the content. Maybe they'll play it longer. Listen, they're going to find a way to make it go into their favor. I'm not saying there's not going to be less movie theaters, but it's just like anything. They will evolve because movie theaters have been going out of business since we were kids. I mean, think about when we were kids. There was Cineflexodian, there was United Artists, there was what was the one in the movie in the mall?
AMC.
AMC, and then it became something else. So Cineflexodian went out of business, United Artists went out of business, and they all became AMCs. Or now they're that company that came from the South. Help me out here, Brian. It's over in the Nanuet, the new Nanuet Mall where it was.
Are you talking about the Regal?
The Regal Cinemas, right?
Yeah.
Regal was a Southern company in the out west. So now there's only two major players. So I think these players, they're going to adjust, and they're going to make sure that the content that comes in there is going to be stuff that's going to make them money. Because at the end of the day, it's a business, right? So, Hollywood's going to decide, and they're going to be the creative voice as to what the content is. But those businesses are going to decide what content they're going to share, and they're going to make sure it makes them money. So
But now, as expensive as the tickets are, just because you're making more money, doesn't mean necessarily that you're selling more tickets. Because
Well,
you're talking about $15 in comparison to whatever it was, $7.50.
Like, so if a movie came out that you were wishy-washy or you weren't sure on, you may not want to spend $14 a ticket on.
Yeah.
But like the people that went to go see an Infinity War, like me with Halloween or an It, like I'm spending $14.
Regardless, it doesn't matter the price.
Like they can make it $20, I'm going to see it because I don't see movies often. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna filter in the content that comes in. And it's going to be content that no matter what, there's going to be a broad enough people that are going to come and see it that will spend X amount of dollars to come see it, and they will capture that market. And maybe they will play it longer. I don't know what they're going to do to adjust it, but I can't see right now movie theaters completely dissipating and going out. They're going to adjust.
It is a different experience than you get at home.
Yeah, because I don't care what you
can't
say,
replicate
there's
it.
nothing like going to the movie theaters.
Yeah.
There isn't.
You can't replicate it. That's true.
But all right,
You
so
couldn't
I agree with you
replicate.
there.
You couldn't replicate going to
Broadway
Blockbuster
shows, because
though,
if you
too.
remember in the late 90s, Broadway shows, they started experimenting with the DVDs.
Yeah.
Trying to do the DVDs with the Broadway shows, and they're like, oh, what's going to happen to Broadway shows now? Because if everyone could just watch it at home, what'll happen? Didn't pan out. Broadway didn't go away. So I can't see movie theaters going out because it's a completely different experience. Because I think there's something to be said about the psychology. Just think about this, right? Whether you're single or whether you have a relationship. So, like, for me, I'm married, right, and I have kids. It's an event for me and my wife now just to go see a movie. Because just to be able... Listen, we love our kids. But to get away from your kids for a night and just be the two of you, there's something nostalgic about that. Because we've been dating since high school. It's only been us. And it's kind of like that old time. We're out. We're alone. We don't got to worry about kids. We go see a movie. We can remove ourselves from our lives. And I don't think it's just us. I think there's other people that share that same sentiment. And I'm sure for you guys, Brian, you're married. Matt, you're dating, but you're not quite married. There's still something to be said about going to the movies versus watching it at home.
This guy actually used a really good analogy, and I love it. And it's to your point. He's like, it's like seeing a band live versus listening to an album. Right. Generally, the album sounds better and is obviously more convenient.
But there's nothing like seeing them.
But a concert is an event that involves other people and making a night out of it.
It's an experience.
So I agree. There's nothing like
really
putting
good.
on that CD and listening
and
to
like
them
having
on the stereo.
going on a mosh pit.
Well, like my wife and I, we just went to the Smashing Pumpkins at Madison Square Garden a couple of weeks ago. It was the first time they've ever played as a band in 20 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, did it sound as good as the album? No, but there's something that's like, wow, I'm seeing Smashing Pumpkins for the first time in 20 years at Madison Square Garden. I'm a part of something.
But
that's
yeah,
bigger
it's something
than
that
me.
you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Right, it's an experience.
Yeah, you were
Versus
there for it.
watching it in your home. It's like it's just something else that is just
Or
part
like
of
going to
your
football
day.
games, or like
Right.
going to baseball
And,
games.
yeah, just
even
the
if the
thought
Mets
that
suck.
you're so close to greatness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like being with me on this podcast.
Not only that, you want to be the first to see the movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You
Well,
want to be the one
it's
that was
like-
there the day
Yeah.
it came out.
Well, it's like
I was
bought-
there on Friday. I waited 5 hours to
Listen,
get a
I'll
ticket.
admit this. I bought tickets to go see Elton John March 6th.
It's a
It's
little
going
bit.
to
He's
be
still
the,
alive?
It's going to be the last
Yeah,
time he's
he's
retired.
like 71 or something.
He's retiring
From
next
life?
year. He's on. No, he's on this farewell tour. Farewell Yellow Brick Road is the name of the tour. It's going to be the last time he ever plays at Madison Square Garden, which is his favorite venue. I'm going to be able to say that I saw Elton John in the most famous arena in the world the last time he ever played.
Yeah.
He's on
There's
the back
something
nine.
to be said about that versus if I bought the album months later on iTunes when they probably produce it as the farewell tour album of him playing live. There's something.
It's
to be
like I
said
said, I don't want movies to go anywhere because I used to go to the movies all the goddamn time.
I just want better content.
It's the content I think is what's
Well, that's
really
what I was trying to
fucking
say
us,
with
yeah.
movie theaters. I think if they are able to regulate the content that comes in there, they can still make money.
But then there's the advertising. I mean, I remember in another podcast you said, "Man, Game Night is a great movie, but I remember the advertisement for this movie really sucked."
It was terrible.
But that's on the movie. That's on the producers and the
No,
production.
yeah, but because they don't trust their product. They were like, "Well, it doesn't have
Well,
Iron Man in
alright,
it."
I can make, but then I can make an argument though. If I'm Regal Cinemas or an AMC, I'm not going to play that movie if I don't think that they're advertising it, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to come and see it.
Yeah, that's the point.
But that's what I'm saying is these companies now can choose the content that's going to come across their
The
into
one
their
good
business.
The one good thing about that is that that's something they can improve upon.
Yeah.
Because if the content is there, like the movie, you
I
guys
could
said
make
I
it-
didn't see the movie,
I
but
can
you guys
make
said the
the
movie was
argument that it
great.
could actually fix Hollywood by if they took this Bismol. So if you're listening, Regal Cinemas, AMC, you can fix Hollywood in their shit-tastic advertising and marketing
Yeah.
campaigns right now. Because if you choose your content that's going to come into your cinemas, you can basically
Put the pressure
cut
on them.
off. Yeah, because if you cut off some production studios that don't have advertised in movies and say, I'm not going to play that movie, now you're pretty much guaranteeing they're not going to get a good return on their dollar. So now they have to be, okay, well, we need to make sure that the people want to see this, so that people play it in movie theaters. Movie theaters can actually become a bigger experience than they've ever been if they become more selective.
You know what I've
That's
noticed?
what you need to do.
You know what I've noticed also? How many times do you watch?
You're welcome.
I like to watch movies where like someone who I know likes movies just as much as I do will say, "Yo, I watched a movie. It was really awesome. It came out last year," and I'd be like, "What?" And he's like, "No, it was really good. It slipped through the cracks because I mean it flopped, but it's a really good movie."
There's even movies that don't make it to the theater.
Well, see,
Yeah.
that
here's-
slips through the remember the Babadook?
Oh my
100%.
God,
dude,
So
that
here's,
was
so here's what,
great. He's
that's
here.
That's
He's
a great
here.
point. That's what they think
Yeah.
of this. So because actual content on a
Babadook.
disc or on a VHS, Blu-ray, DVD is going to become non-existent in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Cinemas need to take advantage of the fact that because there is no content on something that you put into a device anymore, you could technically keep a movie into a theater while let's just say it hits a streaming device. You could keep it in the theaters.
Yeah.
Who's going to stop you, right? So the fear used to be is, okay, movie comes out, goes to theaters, it's got to run its time, its course, then a certain amount of time passes, it goes on a VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever, and it hits home, and then after a certain amount of time, now it hits cable, and then it hits basic television, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Because that doesn't exist anymore, and now things go to streaming devices, you can keep it in the theaters, you can become much more selective, and the people that want to see it in a theater, it doesn't matter that it's on a streaming device. Because again, I watched it the other day on a streaming device. And now it's on HBO. I didn't even know that. I saw it a couple
Yeah,
days
I watched
later.
it on HBO.
But I watched it on a streaming device a couple of days before I even knew it was on HBO.
It's not the same.
It's not the same on HBO. It's not it's a different experience.
Yep.
They could take advantage of it, like you said, is they could take these certain movies that they know are going to be these certain experiences or create these certain experiences and kind of exploit it and
Yeah.
make it its own business. Like if they really wanted to, and they could make just as much money instead of playing 12 movies where like 3 of them are gonna carry the other 8. Just fucking play 3 good movies that are gonna carry you. Play them all year, make as much money as you can, and then next year rolls around, play another 3.
Yeah.
It's a great experience seeing it with your friends, but it's also interesting to see how strangers react to the film as well.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe like when I watch a horror movie, you're like, oh my God, don't go in there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's funny, that's
Well,
hilarious.
Matt said it. So you went and saw The Shining, right, in Charlotte.
Yeah.
10
Okay,
stars.
That movie came out, what, 30-something years prior to when you saw it?
Yep.
Yeah, I've probably seen
Remember
it.
when-
And
Remember
you've seen
Star
it
Wars?
100. You've probably
Yeah.
seen it at least
Prior to that, I've seen it
10 times at least
oh,
on
at
TV.
least. I would say probably 20
Actually-
And you still wanted to see it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Just for
Because
the
there's
experience.
nothing like
it was,
seeing it in the theater.
For example, Alamo
absolutely.
Draft House. They
and I
opened
think
one
that's
up.
something they may do as well.
Listen, they
Just keep bringing
Keep
old
bringing
films
back
back.
things. I'm
they
with you.
opened up the Alamo Draft House right in Yonkers, New York.
Yeah.
I used to go to that and I'd watch old movies.
You mean Scarsdale?
Is it no? It's in Yonkers.
Is it?
There's one in Yonkers.
No, Yonkers is right on the border of Scarsdale.
Yeah,
I know
it's
the one you're talking- I saw
yeah.
Batman vs Superman, the same one you're talking about. You
Yeah.
can get drinks. It's
yeah,
a menu.
that's Yonkers. So I went there and they play old
they do,
movies,
yeah.
and it's fucking amazing. And remember,
And it's a lot cheaper.
it's cheaper. And remember
You
when
can order drinks, Matt. They have like runners that come and they give
Yeah,
you
I've
drinks.
they serve you food
I've
and
been to a
everything. It's
few
pretty
I
cool.
went and
like
saw
that.
that with my mom. She took me to see Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
There's one place
Second
in
time I saw
in Charlotte. It's in they call it the Epicenter, which is in
Ooh.
Uptown,
Yeah.
and I forgot what the hell the name of the place is. It's a movie something, and you could order drinks there. Also, AMC has a few locations where you can order drinks there too.
Yeah.
There was one in Phoenix.
Nice. Dude, you know what? That might be the future. That might because you know what? For example, I watched a movie the other day with my wife.
Nostalgia sells.
It's called Hardcore Henry. Movie.
Yeah, crap. I remember that. movie.
Listen, when the movie came out in theaters, I wanted to watch it really badly because I was always on the internet and like the internet was pushing it. It did
It's like a first-person shooter, but a movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now the movie was I watched it, dude. That movie was amazing. But I was so upset because I'm like, I wish I saw this in theaters. The only reason why I didn't see it in theaters because the friends that I was with at the time, they never heard of it.
Yeah, they knew it was a crap.
They're like,
movie.
I don't know what that movie is. I've never seen trailers for it, so we didn't get to watch it.
Yeah, I did actually hear that. Now that makes yeah.
I
So
remember that
I
trailer.
saw it and I'm like, dude, if that was playing,
It was like a couple years back, right?
yeah, if that was playing in a movie theater right now, I'd fucking go watch it again because it was amazing to watch. And I was like, oh man, it's really cool the visuals and the explosions, but like I wish
Matt
my
would
house
never
is
be able to
okay.
watch it. It's too.
I probably
yeah,
wouldn't.
like you didn't like.
what the hell was the name of that
Cloverfield.
game?
Oh,
what-
Cloverfield,
what was
too
the
too
name of
shaky
that
cam.
game? Turok?
Turok.
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 Yeah.
Come on, man. What's
Dude,
I
up?
almost-
love that game.
Dude, I
Matt
almost
couldn't play it.
just watching him play it, I was like, oh my god.
I love that game.
But to the point, there's certain genres that you watch in theaters, like a horror film you watch in theaters, action-packed film you watch in theaters.
Yeah.
It's only like a superhero film. If you're really interested in watching it, you gotta go see it in the theaters.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, if tomorrow any of our local theaters were like, "Oh, we're playing The Godfather," it's gonna be a showing.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a ton of people that's just like, "Oh, I've never seen The Godfather on the big screen. I get to see that."
Yeah.
But
And
it's
the music.
But
we're-
again,
we're
like,
playing
that's-
it again. I go watch it. If
Right.
we're playing,
Do you remember when they came out with they said we're gonna re-release Star Wars?
Well,
Just
that's the
digitally
thing. I was
remastered.
gonna say a
you
lot
can
of
watch The Dark Knight.
a lot
It's
of
in
s-
theaters. You gonna go see it?
Fuck
a lot
yeah.
of 70s
absolutely. I'm
and
there all day.
80s movies re-released themselves a couple of years later. Like Jaws was re-released,
Mm-hmm.
Halloween re-released, Alien re-released.
Yep.
So there's something to be said, and I think there's a business there.
Yeah.
So that's why, like you were saying, like movie theaters are gonna disappear. If there's people that, I mean, listen, if I'm sitting here on a podcast talking about it, there has to be hopefully someone there smart enough to be thinking like me.
Yeah.
There's a business there, and if there isn't, hire me, and I will
Hold
run
on.
it for you.
I'm actually gonna take one step over that and go. This is a terrible idea. Don't listen to us, guys. I think we need to open up a movie theater. That's the next step right now.
The
Is
Free Bridge Theater.
who wants to watch Ghostbusters in theater? What? Let's do it.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Ghostbusters 84.
Those Ghostbusters 84. I'm sorry.
Caddyshack.
Caddyshack. Who wants to watch that? But with explosions in the background, dude. Like that's a great idea. And honestly, instead of going, hey, you guys want to watch these bullshit versions of remakes of these older movies,
Well, the one
or do you
thing-
want to watch the old movies again?
Well, that's the thing. The one thing about those movies is great content. You don't have to, it's not questioned.
Yeah. because you know it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Because the thing about old movies is that if people appreciate it, they're like, man, I wish I was around when that came out so I could have seen it.
Yeah.
So when you replay it, this is your opportunity.
Not only that, how many times have you revisited an old movie you haven't seen in a while and you were like, wow, this movie's a lot better than I remember it to be? But imagine
Halloween.
if you had that experience in movie theaters.
Well,
Yeah.
Halloween I
Son of
never
a
didn't
bitch.
like, but every time I watch Halloween, there's something I watch and I go, wow, I didn't notice that the first time.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Because there's so many little things in that movie. I'm like, I can't believe I missed that. It was so
They're
obvious.
very,
God,
very
man.
subtle, well
Yeah.
thought out.
It's a great movie.
So movie
well
theaters
executed.
really can't. They shouldn't go anywhere because the theater experience is you
It's
can't.
unmatched.
It's unnatural.
I-
Maybe like if you're like was it a drive-in? Maybe
I think it's like
drive-ins.
exactly what you said.
Yeah.
It's no different than watching a concert versus listening
Yeah,
to a CD.
that's
It's the
really
same
good.
thing.
I think that there's going to be movie theaters that close though.
Oh
I
yeah.
think
Oh,
there's going to be
there's no
less.
doubt.
not casualties.
There's less number of movie theaters, but like Chris said, I think there's still a market there.
Well, listen, it's
Yeah.
it's all economics, right? So if you
Yeah.
go to places where there's
it's all
obviously
supply and demand.
Yeah.
obviously people don't have money, like those movie theaters are going to shut. But again, it doesn't mean there's not a market for it.
Well, I think
You
movie
need to
theaters are
advertise
adapting.
it to, huh?
Well,
They
you-
are adapting. They are doing things like, hey, you know what? We're putting in recliners in our theaters, and some movie theaters are like putting in bars, and now
yeah,
the
they're
Alamo
trying to make
Draft
it
House-
a better experience.
Yeah, they're trying to make you more comfortable.
but
There's no doubt.
but like
Yeah.
we said, the movies coming out nowadays, it's
Pieces of
just not,
shit.
it's not pulling you to the movie theater.
And I think when movie theaters do what Chris just said, when they start going, the hell with these pieces of shit movies,
Yeah.
let's play
Right,
these
I'm
four
not going to
movies.
put this
When
piece
you're
of crap
more-
in there.
when-
I'm going to just play this over and over
That's-
again. I'm going to suck as much money as I
Or
can
you do it
out
for
of
like a month. Like, hey, listen, this month, Halloween month, we're playing nothing but the classic horror movies.
Well, when you become
Well,
more
that-
selective,
that- if they were smart, what they would do is do it quarterly. Is one quarter should just be new content, the next quarter should be nostalgia.
Yeah.
Then it should go back to new content because then it's supply and demand.
like
at
I
that
said,
point.
don't listen to us, guys. Terrible idea.
Yeah.
Come to our movie theater. coming to a theater near you.
right on the free bridge.
This is honestly, I think we're onto something, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna post
if
this
I
anymore.
Hear we one more time. you were like talking about movie theaters closing down. I literally just saved movie theaters.
Chris, I actually,
no, I think that's a great idea.
I
because
just took
the
out a
more
loan on the internet right now as we're talking.
It's the thing is the more selective you become, the higher quality that the product's going to be.
Yeah.
Or at least you're forcing them to be a higher quality.
Yeah, this was.
So I,
Because
I
you're
hope
now
they listen to
forcing
you.
the industry.
Yeah, I hope they listen to you for the very reason that I want to go see a goddamn good movie.
It's a win-win. Either we do it ourselves and become billionaires.
the
movies great again.
last movie that I've seen is it.
That's
Is
it.
that the last movie you've seen?
Mm,
What's the last movie you've
I've
seen?
well, the last movie for me was Infinity War, but that's because I'm.
When
a
was
comic
that
book-
though?
That was this year.
That was this year,
Early
yeah.
This year.
Okay, we're still late in the year. Is that the only movie you've seen this year?
Black Panther came out this year in theaters.
So 2 movies. So
That's
far.
it. Those are the only movies I saw
2
in
movies,
theaters.
and we're in the 8th month.
I will say this: I did want to go see Mission Impossible, but nobody wanted to come see it with me because I have no friends.
I actually heard it was pretty
I'm your
good.
friend.
You guys weren't around. My wife didn't want to watch it either. She says you're a loser, Brian. I would never go anywhere with you.
We're only here every week.
Well, let's do
I
it.
gotta be honest. I don't know when the last time I saw it wasn't it, but I can't.
I
remember
really
if
think it was
after
it
that.
for me.
For you,
That's
yes.
it?
I'm talking about
I
me.
think that was it.
Pun intended.
It was it.
What other movies came out recently?
I don't.
Oh,
know,
that
dude.
garbage movie that no one wanted to see.
Listen, man, Hollywood is really they're out of touch with what we want.
Yeah.
They're trying to play too many angles instead of just making a fucking good movie
yeah.
with new ideas.
It's just like stop pushing an agenda and just make a quality movie.
Just
That's it.
why don't you guys just put out remastered version of RoboCop back out there for me, and I'll watch the shit out of it instead of making that bullshit RoboCop version.
RoboCop.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Don't do anything, or there will be trouble. God, I fucking love him.
There will be blood.
So
Peter
I think
Weller, we love you.
we're gonna end it there. I think this was a great conversation.
Great conversation, great topic.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe,
Mm-hmm.
and listen.
Listen, guys, if you guys
Listen
have any,
close.
do you like that idea? If like, imagine if movie theaters just said, "Fuck all these new movies." You know what? We're gonna play all the great movies, and and we're gonna fucking play them for an entire month, so you guys get to get that experience. Because there's some kids that probably love some of the movies we've mentioned that came out in the 70s and the 80s, the 90s. That they didn't get to go to watch that in theaters, and that's not fair. They weren't around, but they're probably like, I want to see those movies, and now you get to go see them, like Ghostbusters. What's up?
So to end it off, Chris, what's your favorite decade of movies?
My favorite versus what I think is the best is two different things. I really,
So what do you
what's your
think is the
favorite?
best?
No, I want to know what his favorite is.
I like the 80s, but I think the 70s is the best.
So you had
And
more fun.
And I graded. Well, no, I graded by this. So,
You turned off your brain. I got it.
well, like, let me ask you a question. So, Brian, what movie can you watch over and over again?
Matrix.
Literally. All right. So, if it's on TV, no matter what, you're stopping your watch.
Absolutely.
Even if you had another intent.
Yeah, if I
So do you like the 90s the most?
Do you think the 90s is the best?
no, that's just my favorite movie of all time.
Okay.
What's your favorite decade of movies? Then?
80s.
Okay. Why?
Not by a lot. And it's a very small margin, but I'd pick the 80s.
Okay, Matt. What movie can you watch all the time? No
Yeah,
matter what?
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump. Oh, so that's 90s. Was your 90s the favorite?
I like 90s the best.
So.
It's not my favorite movie though, per se.
Is it
doesn't have
possible-
But
to
it's the
be
one
your
that I could
favorite.
always watch.
Yeah.
It's on.
So I think the 70s has the best movies, and the movie I can watch all the time is Jaws. Like anytime Jaws is on,
Yeah.
my wife says,
F that
"Oh, you have
shark."
to watch
I
it."
mean, just
Well, you don't think that shark? is
No,
real?
I'm saying that joke where he's like the real hero was the mayor when he's like, F that shark.
Yeah.
These beaches are staying open.
These beaches are
we are
staying
gonna
open,
have a
Brody.
summer.
Don't
we
worry.
need some revenue.
Listen, read that book, and it's a lot different than the movie.
But
and
I'll
it's
tell you
pretty
this, man.
crazy.
Every time Jenny dies, I feel like, no, she's gonna live this time.
No, well, that's how I feel in Jaws. Every time that Alex Kittner boy gets on that float, I'm like, he's gonna make it. He doesn't make it. And then same thing with Quinn.
He's
I'm
so
like,
close to shore. Just
Yeah.
just a few more strokes. Oh god.
I'm like,
Oh, they got
I'm
him.
like, dude, Brody's gonna grab Quinn's hand and he's not gonna fall into the shark's mouth. No, he falls into the shark's
Nice.
that shark is horrifying.
But-
I get terrified. I don't even like
did
sharks.
you
Never.
ever
Oh, dude. Animatronic, I wouldn't even go into that shark.
No.
Animatronic.
I
I'd
think
be
it's
afraid
real.
to pull me down,
No, see,
malfunction by
here's-
mistake.
It's not
Here's
until
the
he
thing
bites
about
into you.
animatronics versus visual effect. So like, I don't know about you, but I always had this phobia. Like when I went on like the Jaws ride, at
Yeah.
Universal.
Oh my God, scared
If
the shit
I
out of
fell
me.
in the water, even though the sharks were on its own tracks
Tracks?
to go into it, like just knowing that shark was in that water freaked me out. And I always had.
Well, imagine seeing it while
Hold
in
on.
the water.
Yeah.
So when I always had dreams that I was in the ocean with the animatronic shark, knowing it was an animatronic shark, but just knowing it was in the water freaked me out. Versus if it was visual effects, you're not in the water with anything.
Yeah.
You're adding it after the fact.
Dude, I've had
that
dreams
makes
of
me
fucking
so
sharks.
fucking scared.
Dude, it
Yeah.
scares me.
But the funny
That's the
thing,
worst way to
Just
die.
God forbid,
Did
God
you-
forbid that thing malfunctions and just like grabs him down. Help! Help! Help!
well, you both seen Jaws, right?
Saw it twice.
Never seen it.
So twice.
I'm joking, I'm
I've seen it twice this year. So you know the Alex Kittner kid. He's the kid on the float that gets killed.
Yeah,
During
and then you
the
see the
holiday.
blood like bubbling
Yeah,
up.
bubbling
He's
up
like,
while he's on
"Whoa,
the float."
I'm dead.
But do you know how that was originally supposed to happen?
He survived though, right?
So they originally had where it was like some fake, obviously like kid on a float, and the shark
Like a
comes up
dummy?
and just bites it. Yeah, it was like a dummy. And there's pictures of it. You can Google it.
Uh-huh.
So I've Googled it. I'm like, oh my god. And there's like the shark coming out. That was supposed to be the first time the shark came out of the water. But they had. I'm sure if you've watched the documentary on the
They had
Jaws,
so many malfunctions.
they had so
and
many
what-
malfunctions with the
Yeah,
shark in the
technical
ocean
difficulties.
because they just couldn't get it to do what it was supposed to do. And which is kind of amazing in itself to think that they got an animatronic shark in the ocean
Dude, that's scary.
to work.
I don't like it.
So the first time you actually see the shark like close up is when Brody's putting the chum in and it comes out and he's like, "We need a bigger boat."
But he does
if
that
you-
thing where he looks up. And he's
Yeah,
like, oh,
but if you
shit.
Google Jaws Alex Kittner, you'll see the shark coming up and going to bite the kid in half. It's pretty freaking crazy.
dude.
I'll show you it after the podcast.
All right, so Jaws for him.
That's our thumbnail. That's our thumbnail.
Oh yeah, that's what's gonna happen.
You're welcome.
All right,
Like, share, subscribe.
Listen, guys. I'd like to hear some feedback from you guys. Tell me, put in comments like.
What's your favorite decade of
AMC
movies?
Alamo. I already talked to my lawyer.
What's your favorite decade of
You
movies?
can't steal my idea.
Do you
Yeah.
go to the movie theaters? If so, how often?
Yeah, do you guys like the sound of my voice? Do I sound dumb? Do I sound smart?
You think I'm sexy? You like my body?
All right, I think it's time to wrap this baby up.
Yeah, so-
Deuces.
So that was me, Brian, the host. That was the Felicos. We were talking stuff.
Chris and Matt.
You've been listening to the Freebridge Podcast.
Deuces.